reservoirs from the upstream creeks. The amount of flow coming in from those creeks is going to be greater than the amount of water that is being let out of the dams. And so the pool, even though water is being let out, the pool will continue to rise. And as the pool continues to rise, it will back up westward into these areas. These areas will flood from the actual pool, not the releases. And that's important because that is a lot of the confusion we had with the tax day flood last year.
Is there a possibility that residents downstream from these two reservoirs that have never flooded before because of Buffalo Bayou, that live along Buffalo Bayou, is there a possibility that some of those residents are actually going to have water in their homes for the first time?
Well, considering we're at record levels right now on Buffalo Bayou, with both of these closed, there are people likely flooding that have never flooded before on Buffalo Bayou. If the rain continues, these releases have to be made. Additional structures will likely flood along Buffalo Bayou, but I want to make it clear that if the Corps of Engineers needs to make releases because they have control of the situation. The worst outcome here is if releases are not made, the water continues to rapidly pool in here. That puts a lot of pressure against the dam. The absolute last thing we want to have happen is something to happen at the dam where we don't any longer have control over it.
You have a timetable based on your rainfall data?
Right now, the releases for addicts are expected to start at 2 a.m. tomorrow morning, and Barker will be, I believe, 24 hours or so later.
So that's 2 a.m. Tuesday?
2 a.m. Monday morning, yes. And this is a fluid situation. I know I'm telling you a lot of information.
Unintended.
Things could change. Okay, so we might say 2 a.m. If the reservoir slows down some, the rise slows down some, it might be able to be pushed back a little bit. Obviously, we're dealing with real life stuff here, and so it's not exact. It's not an exact science. We're dealing with water moving across the land, and that's why we're watching everything very closely with Corps of Engineers. They have people out here watching both of these reservoirs. They have eyes on them to make sure the integrity of both of these dams are good right now.
The website, can you get that information out again?
The website where the link to these maps are is www.hcfcd.org. We are also dispensing them to all of the media stations, and hopefully y'all can get them up electronically and put them on the TV and be able to zoom in, and that may help people. Please put them on your websites. I have sent them also to the National Weather Service to get them on their website. The more we can email these are PDFs, so please email them out. Because the best way to look at it is when you're able to zoom in and look at your individual streets.
Is there a possibility that downtown?
Well, downtown's already flooding. Downtown's flooding right now from both White Oak and Buffalo Bayous. The travel time from the relief to the time it gets to downtown is about 12 hours. So, the amount of water that we're talking about going into downtown compared to what's down there now is not that much different. So I don't think it will significantly worsen flooding in downtown.
Have we ever had a release of both of those reservoirs at the same time in any other tropical event that could be more catastrophic for downtown Houston? Have we ever had a release this great of both reservoirs?
We have the tax day storm was the largest release we made, or the Corps of Engineers made from both of these reservoirs. If we remember back to the tax day storm, these reservoirs remained closed for the entire event. So the water in Buffalo Bayou was able to go down, and then the water was able to be released out. This is the first time ever that while Buffalo Bayou is flooding and the rain is falling, that they might have to make releases from these reservoirs. This is the first time we've ever done this.
I know you've been citing a lot of information on that website off the top of your head. I've just already heard from a couple of viewers that are having trouble accessing that. Just want to make sure we have it accurately.
It is www.hcfcd.org, and I believe everyone is hitting it right now, and it's probably down. And that's why I'm trying to get these maps out to everybody. I'm trying to push the load across everybody to help get this information out.
Are there any of that voluntary evacuations in place right now, or will there be actively?
There are voluntary evacuations in both of these sections. On Barker, this is the Harris County portion. This is the Fort Bend County portion, and there are voluntary evacuations on both sides. But as I discussed, we really would not like people to evacuate tonight from these areas. We would like to wait until the morning during daylight hours so you can see what you're doing. We don't want to put people out there in the pouring rain in a flooding condition. You have time tonight to pick up what you need, to pack it up, and evacuate in the morning. And again, this is not a mandatory evacuation. This is a voluntary evacuation, a self-evacuation out of this area. But please go look at these maps before you make any decisions. There is absolutely no reason for people that live back here to be leaving, okay? And there's no reason for people who live back here to be leaving. It is a very targeted area right along the edge of the reservoir.
How much water are we talking about?
So we're looking at about 4,000 cubic feet per second out of attics. I'm not sure how to put that in a term that people would really understand. It's not a massive amount of water, but it's a good bit of water.
And I'm sorry, so with that type of water release, would it be street flooding, or could this possibly go into some of these homes in these areas that you're talking about?
Okay, so the water being released from attics is going into Buffalo Bayou. Buffalo Bayou is already flooding. It's already flooding both streets and structures. This water will go in on top of that. So there could be additional flooding of some structures and some streets. I don't know how many, I don't know exactly where, but if the bayou continues to rise, we're going to have flooding. But the bayou is continuing to rise anyways because it continues to rain on. The attics and Barker, they're rising. I don't know exactly how fast they're rising, but attics is rising faster than Barker, which is pretty typical that attics rises faster than Barker. There's a lot of creeks that come in here and they get water down here a lot faster.
And how much are funding each attic built the home?
How much water? I don't know the exact figure of how much water to build the home. That's a question for the court. Okay? All right.
So some important information just there released by Jeff Linder with the Harris County Flood Control District. And we're going to bring in Justin Frank on this right now as well. But talking about those controlled releases of these two reservoirs, the attics and the Barker as well. The attics release is going to begin at 2 a.m. That's just over 5 hours from now.
It's hard to imagine, and just like Jeff Linder was saying, this is all going to flow in an already flooded and swollen Buffalo Bayou, expanding it by another 3 to 4 feet. So as he mentioned, we already have homes and cars and businesses that have taken on water. Now they're going to take on even more water. So with this release coming at 2 a.m. this morning, downtown, he said, would be impacted about 12 hours later. So you can sort of back time it according to your neighborhood to get a guesstimation as to when you might see more flooding if you live along Buffalo Bayou. To go over Attics Reservoir, just to let you know, we're efforting our maps, and we do want to let you know that these Harris County flood control maps, their website is down. They are inundated with people trying to get access to these, so we have one of our reporters there who's going to take pictures of these maps and get those up on our website until we get the actual maps sent over from Harris County Flood Control District. But
that attics being released in just over 5 hours and in about a day, also going into Buffalo Bayou.
Barker.
Yeah, Barker as well. Yeah, so the Buffalo Bayou is going to get flooded, and those homes, those neighborhoods that are nearby as well are going to be impacted. For attics, it's mainly that Bear Creek neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought his language was very careful when he said,
"Agreed.
We don't want to get into a position where we are not in control of them."
Right.
Which is to say, we don't want them to bust.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have to.
They have to.
You have to let the water out, or they'll bust and the water will come out anyway. And then you have no control over where that water is going to go.
That's right.
Was his point. And it's really a tough decision.
Oh, indeed.
And that absolutely that they're having to make. hopefully the people that have been affected already perhaps saw the possibility of this and have gone to higher ground. But it's on its way.
Yeah, and as you mentioned with the tax day floods, these releases didn't take place until several days after the event was over. If they're doing this now and we still have a day or two left of this particular event, they must be at some pretty tight levels right now.
They have to be, yeah. And expecting a lot more rain. More rain's coming, right? Yeah, I mean, he did say that they were going to try to do it slowly, not all at once.
Instead of opening the spigot all the way.
But starting at 2 a.m. and going into tomorrow.
Yeah, we have an arrow right now showing exactly where the Addicks Reservoir is, and if you look at your map, it's just north of I-10. It's bordered by Highway 6 to the west and Eldridge to the east, and Buffalo Bayou. Maybe we get that arrow to point to the bayou, so it's going right there, and so all this controlled release from the Addicks Reservoir is going to flow into Buffalo Bayou. So as you see that arrow move from west to east on your screen, this is giving you an indication starting at 2 o'clock in the morning where the extra flooding is going to start, and then it's going to wind up through downtown Houston by 2 p.m. tomorrow afternoon.
So they'll release some of that, and then what Jeff was talking about is you're talking about some of the western neighborhoods here, some of the western flank of this, that just trying to release some of the swollen dam at this point. That's Highway 6 and Clay Road.
Yep,
up near Bear Creek Golf Course, which was completely underwater after the tax day floods. I was out there for 3 days straight, and not only, I can tell you, I still got the video, on my phone, and certainly have it up on social media as well. We were seeing that the water was so deep on Clay Road that it was getting into the cracks, and there was just bubbles all over at that point. So think about what happens. You get water into the cement, it eventually dries, and then it starts to crack. Well, we got another repeat of that, and folks that use Clay Road, it's a main road for some of the northern neighborhoods to get down to I-10.
Yeah, you lose your infrastructure.
Yeah, to be able to get into the city just to work. And I remember hearing reports that it was taking people upwards of 90 minutes, 2 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Just a normal traffic day. I mean, coming in from Katy, it sometimes can get a little crazy in the morning. But on a normal where it'll take you 25, 35 minutes, we're talking closer to an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Well, some of those roads were closed for 6 weeks.
Right.
And they will be again.
Yes.
So again, so Bear Creek neighborhood, Clay Road, Highway 6, Clay Road, and Greenhouse. Also, homes in that energy corridor area as well. Starting to get into George Bush Park as well.
Yeah.
Those homes will see fairly immediate impact.
Yeah, which is all right around there, inside the circle. I mean,
and that bottom circle that you have is going to be impacted by the Barker Reservoir, which will be released sometime on Tuesday, they say. That's just south of I-10. It's west of Highway 6, so it's going to impact those communities that butt up next to Highway 99 in the Katy area, and also the West Park Tollway to the south.
Right.
So it's that quadrant that's going to be impacted by that release, which is happening sometime on Tuesday.
Yeah, we're talking Katy, Claudine, Cinco Ranch, also more another section of energy corridor as well.
Here's one map I've got. If you look on the Weather One computer there that's in the queue, if you can take that full.
Oh, that's helpful, Frank.
And that's what Jeff was showing.
That's the Barker
That's the Barker
release.
Flood estimated 103, 104 feet. Misspelled, thank you. That's my gifting. And that is the same map that we got from the Memorial Day flood.
Yeah, I would say that looks almost eerily similar to what we saw a couple of years ago.
So that gives you an idea.
But here's the thing: how much new development has there been into?
There's been some, certainly,
over there towards Cinco Ranch. So they just opened up a new high school. So
right.
I mean, there's we got a lot of new buildings over there that have maybe been in some of those spots that are in the crosshairs now that weren't.
Well, I mean, they just opened 3 brand new elementary schools this year. So, yeah, and the developments that are out there, Firethorn and
All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are resuming live here at the Lost Begotten channel in our coverage of My Little Finger Snap Manifest. And for those of you who don't know what I mean by that, it was, how many days ago was it, Lacey, that I just finally had fed up? I talked about how since we woke up, my wife and I, in 2011. No major storms have made landfall in the United States, and I was just tired of giving warnings about much greater types of doom. And I said, you know what? Have a natural disaster. And I snapped my fingers. And here we are. And again, I'm sorry, but I will not apologize. I will, however, apologize for my inability to get this freaking camera straight. Okay. I think that's as good as we're going to get. Or we can almost kind of see that little radar on the bottom there. Let me see if I can get us a better picture. It seems every time I reopen this app, my camera is reconfigured to crap. So let me see if I can get it just a little bit better picture in there. Possibly. I guess that's about as good as it gets. So, while everyone was sitting there saying, oh, it might be a Category 3, I'm sitting there posting my stream as Megastorm. Telling you it could be a Category 5, and it's basically a lower level low merged with an upper level low, and they finally kind of divulged that a couple times here and there. And finally saying that they might be splitting apart. Oh boy. Oh, you didn't mention that they had gotten together to begin with. People might have actually gotten the hell out. But their solution, because they didn't have a proper evacuation plan, they justified their lack of they used their lack of a plan to justify a lack of action. Did I win something? So, now they're at this juncture where they're going to have to basically flood some large areas and sacrifice several thousand homes, which may or may not be evacuated, in order to keep several dams in two very large reservoirs that they were just talking about. But I thought there were some other ones upstream in addition. But the two reservoirs, the main reservoirs in northwest Houston, which is basically upstream, are going to need to be controlled released, a lot like what you heard at the Oroville Dam thing, in order to prevent them from being toppled and possibly failing. And they just got done, I think the HASD parish people were just giving a press conference and discussing their plan to release the water. One of them is already toppling, one of them is almost toppled. So they're going to be doing controlled releases, starting. They say they're going to start it slow. I don't know if it's going to be slow enough, but that's what they said. So best of luck to him, and thank you to all the new people who have been joining me on these streams here, and been watching them after I've uploaded. It's not showing me that you're viewing, but I'm seeing after the fact that people are actually coming on here and viewing, and I appreciate you watching. Basically, my channel exists for one purpose and one purpose only, and despite my stuttering, I think I accomplished it pretty well. This channel teaches people how to save the world, okay? And in the spirit of Elias, when things that are said to people in order to save them are not listened to, bad things then happen, so that those people will then listen and spare themselves greater wrath.
Or you definitely don't want that to happen. Hey, sir, do you have just a moment? See, these are two neighbors sort of congregating. Let me see if I can watch that right there, John. Just give me 1 second. Hey, do you guys have just a second? Sir, how you doing? I know it's been a tough night. Do you guys have power, first of all, over here? You guys all have power? Hey, I don't want to bother you, but you know, they're going to start releasing water that they think to some degree is going to relieve some of the stress on your neighborhood. Remember, yeah, exactly. Tax day. It's the exact same situation, wasn't it? Yeah. So did your house flood on tax day?
No, I just got like maybe.
It got to like right here, right? Yeah, some of them got saved. So that's what you're waiting for the dam to start spilling the water down Buffalo Bayou, right?
Yeah.
I hope it works out for you, man. Where is it right now? How far did it get tax day? And they started releasing it, right?
It wasn't raining anymore.
Yeah, right. It's still raining now. Have you ever flooded before?
No.
Oh, man, wish you the best. You do or don't have power right now? You do not have power? None of these houses have power? All right, we'll let you be. I appreciate you talking us sort of impromptu. But, you know, that's a situation. Hey, there's a kid down there. Would not have my... Watch that hole. Watch that hole. Watch that hole. I'm going to send it back to you guys. But, you know, it's exact same. I mean, it's almost a carbon copy live shot of what I did a year and a half ago. And it's that issue of when to release the water, how much water to release, and there is going to be a loser either way. And with this rain, it looks like at this point, everybody's losing. But we're going to take a little break here. We got to dry out our gear for a second, and we'll check back into with you guys in just a little bit.
All right, we'll let you do that, Joel. Thank you very much. So last check, we were talking with both Justin and Frank, and they were giving us a synopsis about the reservoir releases and what to expect.
And we have some information from Fort Bend County.
All right.
And Justin's going to drive this map here while I read it to you. But this is
Talking about Sienna Plantation.
I'm sorry. Well,
Okay.
but this is from the Fort Bend County Office of Emergency Management, and they're saying that the forecast is calling for the Brazos River to crest on Tuesday at 6 p.m. at 59 feet, which is higher than the 100-year event against which the system is designed. Therefore, the new projection is a significant increase over the last report, presenting a significant risk to Sienna Plantation. The elevation puts the river at a height near the top of the Sienna Plantation levee system. At this elevation, the river will rise to the top of the levees and, with no margin for error, increase the likelihood of flooding from the Brazos River. Residents in Sienna South may also experience flooding coming from the FM 521 area. That would be Sienna Point, Steep Bank Village, Waters Lake, Shipman's Landing, Sawmill Lake. So Sienna Parkway between Waterbrook West and Steep Bank Village will be impassable. Residents of the Woods, Steep Bank Village, Waters Lake, Shipman's Landing, and Sawmill Lake will have no access to their homes until the water recedes, which could be 5 days or more.
Wow. That just
Pretty dire.
Yeah, just like the news that the folks around the addicts and
Right.
Reservoir got it. It's almost like a punch in the stomach to realize what they're going to be facing.
And Frank, when are they saying this is going to happen again?
Tuesday at 6 p.m.
Is when the Brazos
Yes, that's when the Brazos River would crest on Tuesday at 6 p.m. But they also state that the actual rainfall amounts could change that. And if there's more rain, if there is another 25 inches of rain up to the north on the Brazos between now and tomorrow into Tuesday, then that certainly could happen even more quickly.
Sure.
Because they're projecting a crest of the Brazos on Tuesday. Well, that means that's as much water is going to come down. That could change, obviously.
So they're essentially saying an entire community there is going to be impacted greatly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a Brazos right here, and you can see it sort of divides Santa Plantation over on the east side, and then Thompson's on the west. And so that, there's our
Steep Bank Trace.
Right, there's our Steep Bank, there's the Parkway. Shipman's Landing. There's Santa Parkway that runs north-south here as it works its way through. So,
we're guys, we're going to continue talking about this, but just really quickly, we had promised folks those maps from Jeff Lindner, and we just want to let people know, those folks in the Addicts and Barker reservoir areas, those are on our website, click2houston.com. So if you want to go check those out, they're on.
Kelsey, are they on our homepage right up front?
Peninsula in Chambers County.
And they will be. And can you give us an estimation, or are we efforting that right now? Okay, so just keep checking. If you don't see these maps on our homepage of click2houston.com, just continue to check. We are efforting to get those front and center for you, as we know how critical this piece of information is.
Well, there is a whole article right front and center about the Addicts Barker Reservoirs. I don't know if the maps are there yet, but there's a good article on Click to Houston.
It'll probably be attached to that.
Yeah, I was just saying, we'll attach it.
It's right there on the front page.
Real quickly, we've got a couple of new tornado warnings that Eric Bray just told me about. Both of the one on the Bolivar. There's the one there on the Bolivar, and then we also have one working in towards Chambers County. Those are both until 9:30. That's part of that band that's filling in.
Part of that band. And Bolivar, I suspect that there are people that stayed on Bolivar. They shouldn't have, but I suspect that they did.
Yeah.
And that's around the Gilchrist area. And then that the other one you see, Anahuac, is going to be affected there.
Yeah.
And it looks like Smith Point might be.
Yeah, that'll go right out. Yeah, just go right past it there. So that'll work its way up towards Anahuac and 10. Jump over right here. Let's go to the chat real quick. Let's see some.
This isn't both until 9:30. Doesn't look like there's been anything that's been actually spotted, but let's see. Thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located near Bolivar Peninsula, which is 18 miles northeast of Pier 21 on Galveston, moving north at 20 miles an hour.
Right, which is about where most of them have been moving.
Crystal Beach area is where that one is.
Here's an interesting part too. You saw Joel Eisenbaum out there a second ago, guys, and we had Joel for about 4 or 5 minutes.
We did, yeah, at the Addicts Reservoir.
Right, at the Addicts Reservoir. Did you notice that the rain wasn't letting up?
No, still coming down really hard.
Still coming down. If you look up on the map there, the spigot of water, the fire hose, as we like to say, is trying to slowly shift, but it's now shifting in towards downtown, what Jeff Linder was talking about.
Oh, just want to interrupt you and let you know the maps are on the homepage right now. I just got word they were in-house. They are now on our homepage, so just letting our viewers know. Go ahead, continue, Justin.
I was just going to say, no problem, that, where Joel was standing out towards the Addicts, still getting an enormous amount of rain and downpours at this point, and now we're starting to see some of that fill in across the south side in Ireland. More rain for folks down there near the Med Center, as we mentioned, at South Main Street and Braze, 1.5 foot over its bank. So even though portions of downtown in particular maybe had gotten a bit of a break for an hour or two, or maybe 2 hours, and say, okay, well, let's hope maybe we can get a few of those areas for the water to subside just a bit. But what happens if we go and we just drop another 2-3 inches on it tonight? You know, we basically just washed out any positive gain that we saw from this today. Now, let's go to our glass half full here just a second, is that, and this is what I think, Frank, you and I we've been, you know, sort of trying to see the influence of the drier air. Notice that we're not getting any fill in right in here.
Which is a help, and right there is the center. If you can point your air right there, that's right over Jackson County. That's where the center of this storm is.
Right.
And it's not moving particularly over Matagorda, at least that part of it.
Right.
But we'll see what the actual movement is. We'll get another update from the National Hurricane Center shortly before 10, so probably in the next 30 minutes.
Yeah, which is interesting because if you look at the consensus line, what they're using is, and I thought you had a great point with that, if it's moving southeast, there's east, there's south, so split the difference right in the middle.
But it doesn't look to me,
it looks more east.
Put your radar there on like a 4-hour loop.
Okay.
And let's just watch that area, because when you see that little spin, it almost looks to me like it's moving pretty much to the east.
Yeah. So there it is at Victoria.
Yeah.
In the last 5 hours, there it goes.
Yeah.
That's pretty east.
Yeah, and guys, right now, we're not seeing the moisture come from the Gulf like we did last night. Not as much.
But there's a heck of a slug. Let's zoom in on that.
What did I say earlier?
I saw that.
That's a little concerning, because that's a band that's going right over Pearland, and let's just zoom right on in there to Manville.
Yeah.
There's that
Galveston, and it's going to the Sabine River.
Pearland.
Yeah.
Let's change that 5 hours just to the last hour.
Then it's
But
going
with these tornado
back
warnings
out.
and with this rain that we continue to see,
Keep
what's
saying that one.
giving this system so much energy at this particular hour?
Well, it's enough to spin in. That angular momentum spins those bands toward the center, and as it does that, gives it the lift that it needs to produce these showers and thunderstorms. And yeah, it's not hot out there, so it's not thunderstorms like convective thunderstorms like we see in the afternoon. But you do see we see a sea breeze. You know, the sea breeze is a breeze that gives us that lift, and we see thunderstorms along the sea breeze. So, kind of imagine this as one big lift, similar to that.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that's something to watch, because it's now starting to approach the Gulf Freeway. Some real troubled spots down there that do not need any more rain. There's Pearland, as we mentioned.
Guys, can I just mention, I've been hearing from people who say they don't see as much of the buildup in the Gulf like we saw yesterday.
Right.
When this band passes, we'll be in the clear. And I keep trying to reinforce that these bands just seem to be popping up out of nowhere.
Well, this one band we've been watching all day, the one that's there now, and the one that is off toward the Beaumont area has been fairly consistent. The one that's moving through Liberty County has been fairly consistent. So, you know, we're talking about this dry air. The concern is that little spin gets back over the water, and that re-energizes the whole thing. And if that happens, then all bets are off.
And when will we know that?
Tonight.
At around what time?
6 in the morning. I mean, you see the spin down there in Jackson County. The Hurricane Center says it's only moving about 3 miles an hour. I think it's moving maybe a little faster than that, but not much. It's taken the better part of 6 hours to go 20 miles, so it's not moving very quickly.
But so here's what, if you want to look at the screen there, I put on one of the water vapor graphics, Frank, that just basically says where's moisture blue, dry air brown. There you go.
Right.
So that, to your point, Dominic, that's coming into play to some of this, but it you know,
put another 6 hour loop on that.
Okay.
And look how this the left side of this really just doesn't, look how it just sort of evaporates when it hits that dry air.
Which is a great thing to see.
Okay. Yeah, because you can see, I mean, we really just cut it right across, right there.
You can see it gets to that dry air and it just disappears. So it's running into that dry air. That's good. It gets over water. We'll see what happens with it.
Yeah.
But right now, it's still strong enough to pull in those speeder bands right off the Gulf.
Now, the you know, positive part to this is, whereas last night, and you know, I think we mentioned this earlier, we had the one band near Bay City that we were watching. We had the one band that was set up right there, and then all of this filled in last night. and it just collapsed at that point. So
not as much fill in.
Not as much fill in, and I think it's because of some of this, and maybe some of this drier air moving in.
And why now? Because last night we saw this feeder band clear to Brownsville.
Yeah.
And you see, it's down there,
yeah.
but where the dry air is, it's cut off.
Yeah.
But then it's in. So I think the dryer is going to continue to filter in.
Well, that's a saving grace from what I'm seeing.
Well, anything's going to help at this point.
Everything's going to help. But I mean, it's not a guarantee. But I've seen these dry slots move into these systems. And by systems, I mean low pressure systems.
Right.
And wreck a forecast. They're coming and we think it's going to snow or we think it's going to rain, and it's almost a sure bet. And the same low will grab a bunch of dry air from West Texas and kill the rain chance or the snow chance, and then we have egg on our face because of that. So the dry air usually will screw up a forecast pretty good, and hopefully it'll mess this one up too.
Yep. That is the hope.
I was going to say, if this puts egg on our face this time,
it will be a great looking egg.
I'll throw Tabasco on it.
But I don't want to. There's also a danger of wish casting.
Right.
Sure.
Right. I don't want
We're
to
in a flood situation.
Well, and you can't.
As dire as it is, it's so tempting to wish it away.
Right.
And you just can't do that. You just have to try to look at it all reasonably and say, well, this could happen, that could happen.
Right.
It's a fluid situation. It's weather. It changes.
You have to take what the system gives you, basically.
Right, yeah. I mean, Mother Nature's driving the bus right now, so I'm just trying to figure out what she's doing. Now, do a quick reset on that at about 9:15 here. You can see a lot of the real heavy rain, two areas really starting to pack in across northeast Harris County, which we've already seen some troubles there. And then, once again, across the West Loop, and then working its way up and down much of the West Beltway. And then there's the station there at KPRC. We've had trouble this morning, always trying to get in with the feeders and the flooders at this point. So,
well, Bill Spencer looks like standing by.
He is standing by. He's at Ellington Airport with the Coast Guard right now.
Yeah, that's right. I'm at Coast Guard Sector Houston-Galveston headquarters with the men and women who are making nonstop rescues. They have over 1,400 men and women who have been working in the air, the helicopters, on the land, in boats. Rescue divers are out there. We're going to hear the very latest on their progress and what they've been able to accomplish. Take it away, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this evening's press conference. I'm Lieutenant Commander Scott McBride, spelled SCOTTMCBRIDE. I'm the Public Information Officer for Sector Houston-Galveston. We'll be providing you with an update on current Coast Guard operations within our area of responsibility. Joining us this evening are Vice Admiral Carl Schultz, spelled KARLSCHULTZ. He's Commander of Coast Guard Atlantic Area. We also have Captain Kevin Oded, spelled KEVINODITT. He is the Incident Commander for Hurricane Harvey response in the Greater Houston metropolitan area and the Commanding Officer of Coast Guard Sector Houston-Galveston. We also have Commander Jim Spittler, spelled JIMSPITLER, Commanding Officer of Air Station Houston. We'll begin this evening's press conference with some brief statements by the representatives, and then we'll open the floor for questions. Because of ongoing operations, we ask that we'll be available for about 10 minutes. Please allow time for everyone here to ask questions, and then following the media briefing, if there's any additional questions, my staff will be here to assist you. Without further ado, Vice Admiral Carl Schultz.
Hey, thank you, Commander. Good evening. As Scott mentioned, Vice Admiral Carl Schultz. I'm responsible for Coast Guard operational forces from the Rocky Mountains over to the Arabian Gulf. We are here as part of the Department of Homeland Security broader team in support of the state of Texas, in support of FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, which is the Department of Homeland Security's lead federal agency for the response to Hurricane Harvey. The Coast Guard is in with forces from all over the country. We have flown helicopters, boat crews, incident response experts from places as far away as Maine, California, along the eastern seaboard through Florida and the Gulf regions. We have 8 helicopters that started the day flying. We augmented that with 8 additional helicopters for upwards of 15, 16 helicopters flying over the Houston-Galveston area conducting rescues. We've had numerous boat teams here, and I'm going to let Kevin Oded and Jim Spittler speak to some of those details. key takeaways that I want to leave you with this evening: this remains an incredibly dangerous and potentially catastrophic water event here. The rains will continue to come down here for 3 to 4 additional days. Flood waters potentially rise. Folks need to pay careful attention to the information coming out of the emergency operations centers, out of their first response, federal, state, local firefighters, police, emergency managers. We will continue to remain in this fight, working alongside our partners. Earlier today, I was with the governor and his team with the state emergency management director and their entire team. I sat through the governor's brief. I can assure you there are no seams between our efforts supporting the state, supporting FEMA, and I look forward to any questions you may have. I'm going to turn it over here to Captain Kevin Odit. He is the local Coast Guard Sector Commander here in Houston, Galveston. He'll give you a little operational rundown, and then Kevin will be followed by Captain Jim Spiller, who's been running the air operations here out of Houston Ellington Field earlier today. Thank you.
Thank you, Admiral. The Coast Guard and our partners have been running the search and rescue operation since 1 a.m. this morning. So I'd like to thank our fellow first responders, and also I'd like to thank the volunteers that have come out to help their fellow Texans, and also to support to help their neighbors as well. So since this morning, we currently have 19 Coast Guard helicopters in the region, and we have 1 fixed wing aircraft. We also have 3 flood response teams that have come in from Paducah, Kentucky, as well as Memphis, Tennessee, to support rescue operations. And we have also coordinated rescue operations with 2 Customs and Border Protection helicopters, as well as Texas DPS helicopter. We're also bringing in 4 additional Coast Guard helicopters to lend assistance. And we've already assisted on the air side or executed over 200 rescue missions or rescues. And then also we have on the flood hunt side, they've actually rescued over 1,000 people at this time. I'll go ahead and turn it over to Commander Jim Spiller with the air station.
Good evening, Jim Spiller, Commanding Officer of Air Station Houston. Initially, I'd like to encourage the people to heed the warnings of the local and federal agencies. If water does rise in your area, please find high ground. Be patient, stay calm, call the 911 and the emergency response numbers. They will come to the air station. Right now, as I said, we have 19 helicopters in the area tomorrow, and we will continue to respond through the night. We've rescued over 250 survivors, and we'll continue to respond to calls. So be safe, please.
With that, one more questions.
Yeah, can you tell us what the most challenging part is? Where these people, are you rescuing them from rooftops, from the street, as they're wading through the water? Where are you finding them?
Yes, sir. Pretty much everywhere. We've most of them are rooftops, but they've been on top of cars, they've been on bridges, they've been in their attics, which is another point. If the water is rising, please do not go to your attic. It makes it extremely difficult for the Coast Guard to rescue you. Try to mark your roofs with something so we can find you easier. If you are reporting or your family members are reporting to the emergency lines, we need an address and a zip code. So the street number and the address will get us to that house. Any other means makes it difficult for the responders to find the location of the survivors.
Can you lay out how you're going through these rescues? Are you lowering a rescue diver with a basket? Do they load people into the basket? Or how do you do it?
Yes, sir. It really depends on the case and the situation. The majority of them are, we lower a rescue swimmer down with the hoist. He'll climb onto the house, assess the victims. We're still triaging the situation. There are so many people on their roofs right now that we are inundated with the number of people that have medical emergencies. So that's our primary hoist right now are people that are in need of medical care.
Can you estimate how many days you will be out there rescuing people from their homes, from the tops of their roofs?
No, sir. I don't have an answer for that. It really depends on the flood waters and how long they take to subside.
Yeah, I think the key takeaway there is we'll be out there as long as there's demand supporting the state and FEMA. We are here for the fight, and we're here with our as robust capacity as we can continue to push into the fight. So I guess the short answer is the weather's going to dictate that we will remain engaged here supporting the state of Texas.
And the best thing that the people who want to be rescued can do to be rescued by you is to do what? Follow what procedure?
Sure.
So get your attention.
To get our attention, well, first off, when they call, we need to get their location, which includes the zip code, the street name, but also the number of people, and also the nature of distress as well, so we can prioritize them and make sure that we respond to them. I know they need to mark their roof, or else they can wave a towel or anything to get the attention of helicopter pilots as well.
And one more thing, how do you need additional aircraft? And are you in the process of trying to get additional helicopters, and where would they come from?
So I would say right now we have a substantial number here of helicopters here in the region, probably 50% or more of all the operational helicopters across the country. Typically in this region there are 2 air stations in Corpus Christi and Houston that fly helicopters. Generally we have a model of 3 helicopters to have one ready, one to do search and rescue on a normal basis, both out of New Orleans and Houston. I mentioned we had almost 15 helicopters today. We are at almost max capacity. The Customs and Border Protection flew 2 aircraft today, as Cat Mode mentioned. They'll be flying 9 aircraft tomorrow. The National Guard, Air Guard, Department of Defense is coming into the area tonight, into tomorrow with the capacity. So there is also a finite amount of capability you can put in the air and do that safely. We're still dealing with weather bands. The rescues today were in and around the weather bands. The winds remain high. There are heavy rains. So I would say we have a lot of capacity here in town, and that's before you add the state assets to that. So right now, I think we have many assets available. We're trying to best synchronize our assets so that when they're directed by the state, when directed by FEMA, we have the right assets going to the highest priority cases right now. I'd say as folks are in distress, sort of assess the urgency. If everybody calls in with equal urgency, there are folks that are in extremely high flooding situations. There are folks that I do not diminish the significance of dealing with any flooding, but we're trying to triage those calls so we can put the capacity we have against the most immediate threats. And as Captain or Commander Spitler mentioned, those with medical needs are where we focus today. But as we're out there, we're responding to one case and being pulled to something else here. So we're in with robust capacity. Flight safety remains a priority. We've also brought in pilots from all over the country, and this is an unfamiliar airspace for them. So as they orient to the area, we've got to sort of pace into that as well. And right now, capacity does not meet the requirements, but we're going to get more effective at this every day. But we are in the fight, and we'll remain in the fight, as I said earlier.
And are there times during the day you have to break off, where you have to stop for a while because of the incoming weather, because of bands of rain and wind?
I think where we are right now is generally there's pockets that we can fly amongst the bands, so I don't think the weather is stopping our flights. It might reorient where we are conducting rescues. There's just some areas where we can't safely get into. But Jim, correct me if I'm wrong. Is that fairly accurate?
That's correct, sir.
Yeah, there's plenty of work, and we can go find places where we can conduct rescues and not stop those operations. The operations are running continuously. We obviously got to manage crew fatigue. We got additional maintainers into the region. We got additional crews into the region. So we are, I would say, we are full of ground as you go in being in the space and being active and remaining active.
Okay, very, very good. Thank you. Thank you, John.
Okay, thank you again for attending this evening's press conference, and this concludes the press meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much for tuning into that. That was a news conference that was held by the Coast Guard. They were talking about the number of people they had to rescue just today.
Was just one reporter? Does this mean it's just like they're just talking to one guy?
Yep.
Damn.
They don't want too many questions about why they want warning people.
Well, you think it's questions, or you think just nobody could fucking make it?
Maybe.
So apparently due east did work, because it has now taken an unexpected turn due east. And Murphy's was just showing me the spaghetti models, and I was like, no, they're all wrong. And I saw one that was kind of greenish and couldn't see it right away. It was kind of close. It's going to Galveston. Like I said, it's going straight to the mouth of the Sabine River. Right where the water lets out. First, it's going offshore around Galveston. It's going to gain strength. It's going to stay there a wee bit longer than they're expecting or claiming to expect. And then, instead of going up, up, and away, it's going to go back out to sea again. Yes, it's going back out to sea right now. Then it's going to make landfall up the Sabine River. It's going to jog its way over basically to the Atchafalaya Basin and then follow the Mississippi River back out to the Gulf of Mexico, where it is going to hit Florida and then go back into the Gulf of Mexico again. Now, every time there's been a little bit of a storm, I've mentioned this one storm that I've had a dream about, and it was 2004, 2003-ish. I'm pretty sure it's 2004. Might have been early 2005, but it wasn't about Katrina. It was about lots of different floods. I had already... Yeah, okay, so it was early 2005, because I had already made the prediction about Katrina when I was at my mom and stepdad's house in Araby. Basically, south, downstream of the lower 9th Ward, where all that water went before it drained. She had 14 feet of water, which is exactly how much I told her she was going to have, or told my stepdad they were going to have. When we were outside looking at his boat, and I said, you might want to put a chain on that thing, because you see that right about there, and he just kind of knew where I was pointing, about 4 feet below the center clay coping on their roof. And that's where the water went up to. And when they came back, there was his boat, safely on his roof. So anyways, I had this dream about this storm doing all these things that I've been saying this storm was going to do. And the weather people have been saying it's going to do something different. And then all along the fucking way, it's been doing what I've said it's going to do. You know, kind of like the whole world. You know, with the election and Russia and the pudding pops. And also, I've been trying to warn people that, you know, the oceans are dying. I'm trying to warn you that they're going to strike back. But you don't listen. Nobody ever listens. Man, I wish I could have stayed for Walt Smith. I can't wait till BRS. BRS TV, please upload Walt Smith's Magna presentation. My back was hurting too bad, and I had to leave before he freaking spoke. It pisses me off. I hate being a cripple. I was hobbling around that floor, man. I was having a good old time. I can't wait to get some of those videos up for y'all. It's pretty cool. I had a blast.
Mm-hmm.
Murphy's had a blast.
Mm-hmm.
Kids had fun, but they won't admit it. So anyways, Let's see what they're talking about on here again.
Then you also lower the pressure. That's what makes airplanes go up. When you increase the wind, and therefore you lower the pressure, and the higher pressure helps lift the wind. I'm not a pilot. Brian McDonald could probably tell us all this, but that has a lot to do with just the way the wind.
That dry air that they were talking about, that ain't gonna last. I had a feeling it wasn't gonna last, and I'm already starting to see signs that I was right on the radar right there. See in that lower left corner? The sea breeze just caught it. That dry air is going bye-bye.
Me too. But in terms of pressure, its pressure was lower than Alicia, so it was a Category 3. And
might have tornadoes down there soon, by the way.
Storm surge, it was a Category 4 and 5.
Water spouts.
So I was a 2, 3, 4, 5. That's why it became confusing. You know, the Hurricane Center tried to put one number on it to give everybody a simple. It's a Cat 2. It's going to do this. Right. But we've learned over the decades that a Cat 2 can do a whole lot of different things. Just like a Cat 4 can do a whole lot of different things. I haven't heard a whole lot about storm surge on this particular Category 4 hurricane.
They were really worried about it in Galveston, but so far we haven't heard too many bad reports.
No, I haven't heard bad reports. I haven't seen boats on the highway and all that sort of storm surge effect that you get.
That wasn't a big signature of this storm.
Correct. So that's why you wouldn't want to say, well, a Cat 4 has a 20 to 25 inch storm surge, because it didn't necessarily have that. Charlie.
It's relevant to where the storm develops relative to how far it is from the coast. So a larger storm further away from the coast will gather more water between it and the coast. So it's about the volume that the storm actually can bring to the shore. And the stronger the storm is, the more it can do, but it's limited by the volume of water available to it. In this case, the storm was almost hitting shore before it increased in strength, so it did not have a large volume of water available to it. Keep an eye out down there on the other side of Matagorda Bay. If you're down there, there could be water spouts tonight and possibly tornadoes making it inland.
They have a couple boats out there right now. Once they get those folks in and bring them to I-45 to dock off, they will be finished for tonight, but they will be back out here tomorrow. There are a lot of debris and a lot of obstacles in the water, which is why they're not going to continue these rescues at nighttime, because it's very dangerous, and plus the weather is starting to ramp up again, so you don't want to put people in harm's way when it comes to that. We were talking to the Coast Guard earlier. They were making many rescues as well. This is a joint effort between the Coast Guard, Houston Fire Department, civilians who have taken their own boats out here to help people get to safety. And let's talk.
And y'all sit tight. The Cajun Navy's on its way.
Anna. Anna, nice to meet you, Anna. We're glad that you're okay. Tell us about your house. How is it?
We only got a few inches of water, but our whole neighborhood is flooded.
What was that moment like when the water started coming into your house and into your street?
It's scary. We never have experienced this before.
And at this point, what are you going to do?
Up to my mom.
And who's your mom here?
She's right over there.
She's right over there?
Dad right there.
And your dad? Well, we're glad you're okay. We're glad that you got the animals out. They're taking these folks to the George R. Brown Convention Center. They've been putting them on Metro buses, and they've been heading there. Earlier, they were going to Dobie High School, but it was packed, so they start taking people to the GRB. And as you can imagine, the animals are scared, just like this puppy right here. I know he's scared, right?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, I'm sure they all are. I've seen a lot of dogs and cats very scared, because they can sense that there's just something wrong, you know?
They even hop off the couch throughout the whole time.
Oh, they did?
No, they didn't. Whenever we had water on our floor, they even hop off the couch. They knew.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you so much for talking with us. I was going to talk to your mom real quick. Hi, how are you? Sophia with KPRC. Oh, you're fine. I'm glad you're okay. What's your name?
Selena Monroe.
Selena, so tell us about your home right now. What is it looking like?
We left about an hour ago, I guess. But it was, the water had receded from inside the house, there were just like slight puddles still, but it was still rising on the outside. It had gone down, and because it started raining again, we just wanted to get out. Absolutely. And has this is Turkey Creek, correct? Right along here? I'm not sure what the creek is. It's Turkey Creek, but has it ever been like this before? No, our house had never flooded before. Never. It was built in '79. It was the first time. Well, thank you so much for speaking with us. We'll let you get on the bus here and get dry. They're going to be getting onto the Metro bus right here, and the bus will be taking these folks. There's other people already sitting on there. They'll be heading to the George R. Brown Convention Center, where they will get some shelter, be able to dry off, and get out of these storm conditions. But this has been the scene all day long. We've been here since probably 2 o'clock, Michael, you think? 2 o'clock this afternoon, maybe 1, 2 o'clock. It took us a while to get over here because of the flooded roadways. But I want to introduce you to somebody. This is Angel. Angel is literally an angel. He's been helping people. So, Angel, we're actually going to go back to the station because we're hearing about some warning. Guys, what's going on?
That's right, Sophie. We're going to go ahead and get to Justin because we have a new tornado warning.
Head over here, Max 4. We got a new tornado warning that does include sections of the downtown area. There's the South Loop. You can see that box. Let me back it out the whole way. That includes South Loop over towards NRG, Meyerland, moving up towards Uptown, Westview, right in the KPRC there as well. And then it works its way towards the Uptown area, Galleria as well. So let me back out and show you. We've got a couple of different rotation signatures that we're watching within this here. Let me get to the very end, and I'll draw a little circle on these so you can get an idea of what we're looking at. So we've got one that's right there, just inside the South Loop as it meets up towards West Loop there, and then one just to the south as well. So that's if there is going to be a tornado potentially in there. Right now, moving northwest at 25 miles an hour, located over Willow Bend and Bel Air. So it's trucking at a pretty good clip here as well. So we back out, and let's time this out for folks here. I'll actually turn on the radar so that you can get an idea of where it is or where it may be. So as we work this out, it looks like that's where the storm is as it's working to the north. So that'll put it up towards Bel Air, 9:49. So about the next 7-8 minutes, Uptown, 10 minutes or 6 minutes after that, Hunters Creek Village at about 10:04, and then 10:21 up towards Fairbanks. So this is a little closer in towards downtown than some of the warnings that we've seen so far. But one of the reasons why that is we've seen that loop or that sort of curl, that feeder band that has been producing in and bringing in some of the heaviest rain now moving across downtown. So we've even got some lightning with that as well. You can see it just north of where that shaded box is. Let's say that's probably right as 45 meets up with 10, which is all underwater right now, by the way, completely impassable. And then moving up towards the heights, right outside of probably Shepherd. So again, we've got a tornado warning. No tornado on the ground, or at least no reports of a tornado on the ground. Jump over real quick and see if we do not. So that is always good news, but an indication that we do have some potential rotation that we're watching very carefully as you get just outside of Meyerland. So, Keith, Dominic, this is kind of what we were talking about. It's kind of adding insult to injury at this point. The folks are there trying to figure out what they need to do for the night tonight in terms of the water coming up, water coming down, or whatever. And then now we've got potential tornadoes that have been moving on through. But
remind us that band is combining with what to lead to these conditions.
Well, it's basically just that you've got I'll back this out. You've got the center of the storm located right here. It's actually starting to fill in rather nicely. So now we pick up on the eye, or what was the eye anyway. There's the center of the storm, and so you've got this just natural rotation. It's kind of curling around. And so as Frank was talking, that idea of angular momentum, the tighter in you get, closer to that, you're going to increase the spin rate. And so that's what we've been seeing with this. And we actually haven't had a tornado warning.
Okay, so this thing I expect to be offshore again by 4 o'clock this morning and re-strengthening again before dawn.
Track has moved a little more to the east, more over Galveston Bay.
Ready to see that.
I'm putting that together right now.
Okay, sounds good.
Just because I want to make sure everybody heard that. I expect this storm to move offshore again by about 4 o'clock this morning, and will have regained a significant amount of strength before dawn. And will continue to strengthen throughout the day tomorrow before making landfall around the Sabine River Delta. Galveston and Beaumont should both prepare for increasing winds as well as rain. And definitely strong potential with the direction of this storm and with that dry air that just got mixed in and is about to get the crap kicked out of it. There's going to be a lot more tornadoes popping up here shortly. There could be some unspotted water spouts forming down there off of Matagorda, but they just found one, or they just thought they found some rotation about to hit the medical center down there on Meyerland. That's down there at the southwest portion of the 610 loop, and not far from where my whole dad's side of the family lived. But my grandma will be okay because she's in heaven. And her house that was there since the 40s, and they finally got her to sell. They finally got her to sell, and then she died like a couple years later. That's so sad. And they built up all these big fancy houses around that area. Pisses me off. I learned how to ride a bike in that neighborhood. Anyways. So there's the tornado warning right there. Yeah, that's it. And Bel Air, where my grandma lived, was kind of like on the, if you make a capital L right out of that little section of 610 right there where they just put the 610 badge over it. Well, her house is right up there above the corner of that badge on the left side of the 610 loop there, I think. So dead in the path of this tornado. Yeah, that's all Houston. This is all Houston. This is different neighborhoods and sections of Houston. Give you an idea how giant the Houston area is. It's got 2 inner loops. Like the 610, then it's got Beltway 8. And you got your couple of little outer places, outer highways that don't connect all the way around. And then you finally actually leave the Houston area. After the Highlands, after Katy, after Kingwood, after Sugarland. Then you're out of Houston. Pearland, I think Pearland and Sugarland actually count as their separate, different municipalities. But most of it's still Harris County. Then you got Brazoria County right below it down there. The other half of Pearland and the Manville. See right there? There's the Paris line down there. From Manville to Galveston County. Manville and down, that's Brazoria County. And then right there, that's Sugarland County. Fort Worth. No, wait. No, damn it. I used to live there and I can't remember the name of it. Shit. Fort Bend County. Fort Bend County. Like, what did my first honor roll certificate say? Okay. So earlier on the live stream, you saw me get frustrated after the wife asked me to give them a break down there in South Texas and Houston and everything, and not let this thing linger until Thursday like they were saying it was going to. And then shortly thereafter, they started changing their forecast and saying it was going to move back offshore. And I tried to say it was going to move east. There it goes. Moving east. Earlier when that lady said she was going to Galveston, I said, no, don't go to Galveston. That's where the storm's going. Hey, look at that. What's east of the storm? Galveston. ¿Qué pasó, Carlos? Buenas tardes, señor. We're having yet another no one listens to Zathras moment. But then again, aren't we all? A bit of an echo. Let me see. Oh, yep. There's definitely a bit of an echo. Sorry about that. I was just trying to briefly turn on the microphone to make sure my warnings and predictions for tonight were being heard, because basically they were getting kind of optimistic about this little dry air mass that was starting to mix in with the storm. But due to the direction of the convection, that dry air does not stand a chance. It was a temporary alleviation at best. Why did it? No, it's not going southeast. It's going due east. At least you got the Galveston part right. No. Just no. It's all wrong. What's wrong with you people? That's not what I said. Therefore, it is not correct. Look how wrong they are.
I know. I've been showing you that that's the path that they've been showing all day, and they're wrong. How the fuck you figure out what's going on?
Y'all, please go and find these news websites, their Facebook groups, their Twitter, and post the link and tell them, like, they're wrong. They've been wrong the whole time. I've been right the whole time. Wrong, 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 wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong. You're wrong. Dumbasses. You need to listen. Ring. The storm is going to be offshore by the morning. Okay? It's going to be by Galveston. Offshore. By Galveston. By the morning. Picking up steam by the morning. Increasing in strength by the morning. And it's going to hammer the hell out of Galveston. Then it's going to move on to Beaumont. Make landfall probably between Beaumont and the Sabine River. Could wobble a bit again before heading north. But then we'll go back out further east. And then it's going to hit Florida. And then, dearies, it could combine with yet another storm. This little high pressure system that's coming off of Florida. It's just going to pass underneath. And then it's going to go across the Gulf of Mexico. And it's going to go across South Texas. And that's what's going to cause this storm to go back out in the Gulf of Mexico and hit Florida. And by then, that high pressure ridge that's injecting that warm air will be holding it from going to the north. It's not going to go up to the north and dissipate. It would have to be late September for that to happen. the air that it's encountering is not cool enough for that to happen. It's not going to turn into a rain trough event. See right there up on the bottom left corner of the screen? Oh, they just turned it away. That's Matagorda Bay. And they need to keep an eye out tonight. Because there could be some tiny little water spouts that aren't going to show up on radar. That could do some significant damage if they make landfall. Alright, so I'm going to put it back onto this tornado warning update. And thanks for anybody who's recently joined us. You're watching the Lost Begotten channel. Your place to learn how to save the world, which you need to do, and be good little humans.
There it is. Let's back it out because we do have the other one. This is over across. Oh, there it is. Look at that. That's that looks to me like. Well, fortunately, it's going to go over the bay. Yeah. So that's a help. It looks like it's just to the north of Smith Point, which is down the south there. Okay. All right. So there's Smith Point. Yeah, more or less. But yeah, but that red, what we look for is the red against the green, because that indicates some spinning winds. Red runs from the radar, green goes to it. Yeah. And that's how you learn it in meteorology 101. Yeah. And like Visine gets a red out. There you go. And all our little tricks. And so this, as the red is going away and the green is coming toward you, then why are they so close together? Well, something clearly is spinning. And so that's where the signature comes from. Yeah, that's a fairly strong. It's one of the stronger ones we've seen here. Yeah, as well. So now it's got to get. There's not much on the underside. Well, I was just going to say. There's Anahuac, which does. It looks like it would be to the south of Anahuac. It could still into Chambers County. You need to watch out there. Yeah, certainly. So, and again, not only are we watching that, but we're also watching an additional amount. That's interesting. An additional amount of. Pretty good rainfall falling with these.
So that green that's just showing up south of downtown.
I'm curious that nothing on that one. No, nothing on that one. But
isn't that what you look for?
Generally, it is what we look for. We want to make sure that what we're seeing with that isn't some kind of a false return. I mean, something that's trying to show up on the radar that isn't necessarily there. Anomalous propagation is what we're going for. There you go. It's late for words like that. But you're right. I mean, you're exactly right. That's what we would look for. Sure. That is. But the National Weather Service will analyze it, and if they make a decision, then they'll go with that. That's not really our decision. But look, there's some wind signature there. Watch out in downtown Houston. Yeah. That's coming right over downtown. Keep a watch on that one for sure. Now, pivot over to the tornado warning just to the west of that as you go, as you were mentioning, Frank, through your neighborhood. Looks like the majority of that's now pushing up near Hennessy and Hunter Creek.
Okay, well, I'm always entertained by bush bashing. How many people have been in charge since then?
Thanks. And the Beltway moving up towards 290. So, knock on wood here, we have not seen a single one of them drop. Single one of these drop yet at this point. So it sounds like they're out there. I'd love to keep that going for the rest of the night. And put it back on reflectivity and zoom it out, because I want your opinion on something here, Justin. When we look at this. Keep going.
Hey, Frank, can I just mention that there are a lot of people who live in high-rises near downtown, in downtown. If they spot anything, click 2 pins would be a great way to get images to us. I know it's dark, but...
That would, and then people that are, but I don't want them going out on their balconies to look for it.
Yeah. Sure.
Go out. High-rises, people think, it's a flood event. There's not a high-rise issue, but there certainly can be.
If it's a wind issue.
Well, not only that, but you get water in lobbies. Water will take out the power. Water will take out the elevators. People that work in the high-rises as staff, they have to tend to their own families. So there are going to be issues with high-rises. Plus, there are occasions where the rain will come in, not necessarily this one, but come in so strongly that you're flooding from one floor to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. Right. So high-rises have their own issues, for sure. But if you look at this, just almost looks like the last hurrah. Gosh, too soon to say that. I was going to You know what? I didn't want to wish cast that, but it
put on that dry area.
Yeah, I was just saying, let me throw that on. And what I'm really interested in seeing here is, and let me find our, there we go, is look at something almost, yeah. So look at an almost carving out of the storm. So it's like someone takes an ice cream scooper and just goes, just scoops the moisture out.
And when we, when these storms are out over the Gulf or the Atlantic, we look very strongly at the dry air around them, and that is very determinant about whether they'll really materialize or not. So dry air is not just something we're making up here, but look, nobody, and we're in an emergency situation, so nobody's just going to come out and say, well, that's it, don't have to worry about anything else. That's for sure, because if there is any chance for more heavy rain, we have to be prepared for that, and there is a chance. So
100%.
Gentlemen, let's just establish that we are watching KPRC Channel 2 News at 10 o'clock. You've been watching continuing coverage of Harvey, what is now the remnants of Harvey, which has become just a nasty, nasty storm that has flooded the greater Houston area, has left people in dire situations. There are many, many parts to this story that we need to bring you tonight, and we will do so over the next few hours. But in the meantime, we've been watching Frank and Justin in the weather department because of these new warnings that have dropped.
Yeah, already thousands of rescues have taken place over the last 24 to 36 hours. A lot of folks out of their homes, and right now we know that there are a number of people who are on top of their roofs waiting to be rescued.
Yeah, let me chime in here because I'm getting around to reading the National Hurricane Center discussion, which I had mentioned that I don't know where they're getting the 40 mile an hour winds from.
I'm not sure where they're getting.
They're not actually. They admit there have not been any observations of sustained 40 mile an hour winds over the past few hours, but the initial intensity is going to remain at 40 miles an hour based on the assumption that higher winds are occurring over water, likely in those rain bands, and that would certainly be true.
Oh, I would say so. Yeah. Which would help land what we're seeing with the development of some of these, tornado warnings that are coming out as well. So we're getting some.
And the track guidance they're giving us continues to show the storm moving offshore of the Texas coast on Monday, which we've seen, then turning northward and moving inland over northeastern Texas, which is pretty nebulous, really. And for those of us who know the geography here, all of global models show some slight deepening of the system after it moves over water, but given the lack of an inner core, significant strengthening is not anticipated. So all of that bodes well. The Hurricane Center seems to be really staying at status quo here because, as they say in the beginning of this, the unprecedented flooding rainfall event.
Let me make something very clear. These people have no idea what they're talking about. None of them do. There's no possibility that they have any idea what they're talking about. Two reasons. A, Dr. Neil Frank ain't there. Dr. Neil Frank is who taught me how to read the weather. I've met Dr. Neil Frank. He is the one who taught all of them how to do the weather. He is a legendary and groundbreaking research meteorologist that worked with NOAA, worked with NASA, and worked at KPRC TV, Houston, Texas, when I was growing up there. The other reason is, and this is actually the real reason, how many times have you seen a storm hit and then go back offshore? And I'm not talking about Florida. I'm not talking about going over Florida and then going back into the Gulf. But if you take that data into effect, there's been plenty of de-strengthening, destabilizing, losing its core as it crosses the lower Appalachians of the Florida Peninsula. But it wound up, Andrew was a Category 3 when it hit New Orleans after hitting Florida. Hit Covington and Slidell, actually. not New Orleans or anything. But that's the deal. The dry air is temporary relief at best. Like I said, Houston's, you know, we pulled the storm over earlier today on camera. You can go see when we decided to do that. It's been fucking changing its course and moving this way ever since. And they were predicting that it would stay put a whole lot longer before that. They were talking about it going and moving over Houston Wednesday and going north of Houston Thursday. Well, instead it's doing exactly what I said. Basically what I told it to do. And I did so on camera, on a live stream, as usual. So I'm just saying, don't think you're out of the woods yet. Not as far as, especially Galveston. Galveston goes, the port could see some wind-based tidal surge flooding. If any of my friends are watching from out there in the port in that area, please stay safe, y'all. Down there in Alvin, please stay safe, y'all. Danny's down there, man. Harmonica player, my harmonica player, old harmonica player there. So, it's interesting how many of these big events have been happening either where I am or where I'm from, huh? Interestingly tedious. Kind of like the fact that I'm running out of cigarettes right now. Anyways, let me put this weather back on here, I guess.
You know, unfortunately, our rainfall totals we get from Harris County Flood Control are down right now on the website. But
look how high the water is.
Yeah, that's really.
Yeah, you've got emergency vehicles now responding to this.
Yeah, that's my neck of the woods. There's a Chick-fil-A, McDonald's on that corner. Across the street is the center where they have a lot of graduation events and things of that nature, and so that's a very well-known area right there in that part of Katy.
So Keith, is that a feeder road? Look at that. Is that the feeder road then?
Well, that's 1463.
That runs under
it?
Oh,
wow. Underneath the freeway, yes. And so, yeah, 1463, of course, runs further south through Katy and Cinco Ranch and Foucher area. But
the windshield wipers are still going. I am hoping and praying there's nobody in that car.
Well,
it looks like someone is in there. There may be.
That could just be the sheer of the water going across, being dragged across by the we hope.
It looks like those wipers are going.
They are going. Yeah. They are going. But there's a question as to whether there's someone inside there or not. We certainly hope that's not the case.
Our producer thinks that there might be a rescue.
I was just going to say they're moving with some speed there.
Oh, can you see the monitor? I don't know.
The water must not have gotten to any of the fuses or anything that, or the battery or whatever would be running that for whatever reason.
I can't imagine that the windshield wipers could keep going.
Yeah,
under those conditions they could keep going. But
direct current.
Right. And what you're also able to decipher from this is the speed of the water, which is a real big issue when you get caught in situations like this, because it's not just the high water, it's also the motion of that water and how swiftly it can pull you.
It must be caught on something, because I can't believe that it's not moving.
The car.
Yeah. Because it only takes 2 feet of water to move a car.
Right.
And that's 4 feet of water.
Yeah, well, at this point, we're hoping upon all hope that no one is inside it, but at this point, it doesn't look like the water's rising. Obviously, it's high enough, dangerously high. But
it would be unlikely that somebody would go in at this point in time into that much water. More likely that somebody
got stuck
earlier
last night,
Right.
and then it's just been
Water
stuck
found
all
the
day.
car at that point.
But leaving it going must have been some sort of a...
Get a fucking rescue out there. There's someone in that car. Dumbasses.
Car at that point.
But leaving it going must have...
If there wasn't someone in the car, the windshield wiper wouldn't be on. The windshield wipers are on because they're trying to let you know that they're in there. If they already got rescued, the battery would have fucking died within a couple of hours. You can see the headlights are on and the windshield wipers are on. Somebody is about to die in that car while y'all wish for the best.
I do see that flashlight you're talking about now. Yes, yeah. Yeah, again, this is Katy Freeway.
Let's see what's going on there. Yeah, there are the lights from the vehicle.
That's in the Merrill Center area across Katy Freeway. The Merrill Center is over there.
Is that north or south of the Katy?
So the Merrill Center would be on the north side of the Katy Freeway.
Right.
This right here, if it's a 1463, right now it looks like it's on the south side.
South side of I-10.
Of I-10, yes. But that flashlight, I don't know if there's a helicopter that's up, or if perhaps they're on top of there might be someone on top of the bridge that's flashing that flashlight. But yeah, they are certainly trying to figure out if there's someone inside that vehicle. But as you can see, we've been watching the windshield wipers still going.
Right.
Don't know how long that car's been there though.
Are you suggesting they're on the north side there?
He's suggesting south.
I think they're on the south of I-10.
Okay.
Yes, on 1463, and the Merrill Center is on the north. West corner.
Okay, so what we're figuring out is it's most likely the lights on top of the emergency vehicle that is reflecting on the light on the signal, the traffic pole, as opposed to a flashlight.
Yeah. Yeah, and it almost seems like there's another. If you're looking on the windshield itself, there's something that a consistent flash. That we just see it again, and every now and then it goes away. And that almost makes it appear as if there's a flashlight inside, but we don't know exactly what's in there right now.
It would probably be best for us to leave this picture up so we can monitor it. I would assume if someone's in there, we would see a very quick response. But let's join Jeff Lindner now at Harris County Flood Control District holding another news conference.
Let's talk about those voluntary evacuations.
No, we have been watching this all day.
Get somebody out there, y'all. Please, oh God, I hope somebody's watching this. There's somebody in that truck. That looks like possibly a new Jeep Cherokee. And, DC voltage underwater is going to be able to keep their headlights and their windshield wipers on. The problem is, there is no way that they can get their windows down right now, because the electric motors in the windows cannot work while submerged. Okay? Because that converts the DC into what? AC, in order to spin the fucking motor. So they are trapped in that car while you hypothesize, and it is painfully obvious that there's somebody in there.
If there wasn't somebody in there, the battery from running while the car is submerged would have died within 4 hours tops. Okay, you're really talking about more like 45 minutes to an hour and a half, and there's no way those windshield wipers would be going and the headlights would be on anymore. So there's somebody, you bet your ass there's somebody's in that car, in that I think it's a new Jeep Cherokee, a 2016-17 Jeep Cherokee. Maybe a new Touareg. It's some kind of SUV. And they're in there. Y'all need to send help. Y'all need to send somebody out there to break their freaking windshield, because there's no way they're going to get those doors open, and there's no way those windows are going to go down for them. And they don't have a sunroof. Oh, so it might be a Chevy. No, that wasn't an intentional punchline.
The recommendation is to if you can, move to higher ground.
All right, that was Jeff Linder wrapping up at Harris County Flood Control District, again talking about the homes that are going to be impacted when we are dealing with the Addicks and Barker Dam release. The Addicks Reservoir taking place in just a few short hours. We're talking about at 2 o'clock this morning, and that is going to greatly impact the Bear Creek area, Clay Road at Highway 6. That water is then going to spill into Buffalo Bayou, which then will ease its way east as it finally makes its way out, but in doing so is going to affect many, many homes along Buffalo Bayou. They're talking about an extra elevation of possibly 3 feet, maybe more. It's hard to know at this point, but what they've said is that homes that haven't flooded, homes that are or have never experienced flooding before, may likely experience it once this release takes place. It is full. There is nothing more that they can do aside from doing a slow and controlled release. So that's what we are facing. While we monitor this situation, this is a vehicle that's right there on I-10 at FM 1463, just south of I-10. There are emergency vehicles right there. We don't know if anybody is in the car, but we see people up there perched on the overpass.
Yeah, see if they can go back.
Let's see if we can go back. I don't know if they can pan to the right, but I saw 2 people there on the bridge looking down toward the car. So maybe they are just trying to inspect it and see if anybody's there, or maybe they're part of something that's going to be efforted. But again,
yeah, it's been really hard to tell.
Very hard to tell.
Unusual to see those windshield wipers still going and with the car submerged as much as it is.
And I think that's the part that's getting me. Now, I'll tell you, when Jeff Linder was a little closer to see exactly what was happening, and it looks like that light is a reflection of the street light above. Keith, I think you mentioned that. And then also our floor director.
Somebody just flushed the toilet on camera.
There too, but it's coming at a frequency that's the same every time.
Yeah, so
which if it was someone inside it would be a lot more erratic.
Yeah, especially someone who's in dire need of a very fast rescue.
So let's hope for the best. That maybe there is no one in there and they're just going to check to make sure that's not
right. And we don't have control of this camera. It is a TransStar camera, so as many of you are probably wanting to look to the right to see what's going on, we are not able to do that. So we are at the whim of TransStar and how they will operate these cameras, but we are definitely going to stay on top of this just in case it is a situation that needs to be monitored, as opposed to an empty car that will be reflective of many of the vehicles that we will see across the Houston area that look just like this tonight.
Yeah, this is again at Katy Freeway at FM 1463, and that's the Merrill Center is in that area on the northwest corner of I-10 and FM 1463. A few shopping centers, some residential areas as well, just to the south of there. And so we don't know what kind of vehicle this is or how long it's been there, but
quick thing for you guys. Sorry to interrupt you, but closest gauge we can get around that area, Harris County Flood Control just came back online here. Last 6 hours, the gauge just south of Kingsland Boulevard, which is all right in between there and South Fry, about 7.84 inches in the last 6 hours.
Last 6 hours, wow.
There's 7 inches and whatever else that we've added to that. Over in that location.
Goodness. Yeah, that water there, if you look at the top of your screen, moving at a really good rate, those currents there.
And Keith, I understand Fort Bend County Office of Emergency Management is also ready to hold a news conference. They are right now, so let's join that.
Are created to prevent against the 100-year flood. And they do a very good job of that. But early this afternoon, we were advised that the National Weather Bureau had changed their forecast of the crest of the river at the Richmond Bridge from 56.1, which was right at the 100-year flood, to 59 feet. 59 feet represents at least an 800-year flood event. And there's no levee designed to prevent an 800-year flood. We've gone back and looked because we have, there's a federal requirement for freeboard above the 100-year elevation. And we have an additional 1 foot of freeboard that the county requires. So we have 3 from the federal government and 1 from us. So there's 4 feet. That gives us some protection. But always, anytime...
Well, you live in a 400-year-old city.
It's a risk of failure. And citizens can remember the lower Ninth Ward in New Orleans when the levee failed. and the tragedy that occurred. What we've been doing this afternoon, since we got that information, is we've been in consultation with our mayors, we've been in consultation with the engineers representing these levee districts and the operating companies representing these levee districts and some of the board members. Commissioner's Court of the county, by law, appoints the board members to these levee districts, so we have a responsibility in emergency to take them off the hook to make a decision. They don't have the authority to call this shot. As Emergency Management Director for Fort Bend County, I do. Now, just some background. Yesterday, we issued a mandatory, day before yesterday, we issued a mandatory evacuation order for the San Bernard River. Thank you. See, I don't have notes, so I have to think, and that gets hard at times. And that mandatory evacuation order still stands. We issued a voluntary evacuation order for citizens that along in the lowlands of the Brazos River, basically folks that were impacted by the Memorial Day floods of 2016. We told them they had the option. We upgraded that today to a mandatory evacuation order immediately. We now have to deal with the problem of numerous levee districts. As a result of our meetings, I've made the decision, and we have a decision, and I'm signing orders as soon as they're prepared that will call for some mandatory evacuations of levee districts in Fort Bend County and some voluntary evacuations. And I'll be happy when I finish if there's a question to how we arrived at that difference. For the record, mandatory evacuations in Fort Bend County will occur in levee district number 6, levee improvement district number 7, levee improvement district number 20, municipal utility district number 46, municipal utility district number 49, municipal utility district number 115, First Colony levee improvement district number 1, Fort Bend municipal utility district number 121, Palmer Plantation mud number 1, and Palmer Plantation mud number 2. These are mandatory evacuations. In general, the mandatory evacuation is based on the recommendation of the engineer for the district that says there is an issue with that district in the manner which is constructed that puts it at risk of failure at an 800-plus year flood level. So we have no choice. We have voluntary evacuations because in some of our districts, the freeboard protects them even at this very high number. But they have other problems. Primarily, for the period duration that the water is up, there will be no egress or exit from the district because the streets will be covered with 3, 4, or 5 feet of water. So since they're going to be locked in place, we feel they should have the option to stay in place for a period of time safe within the levee or get out before the streets are closed off. And each individual can make that decision. Those districts that will get voluntary evacuation orders are Fort Bend County Levee Improvement District number 2, Fort Bend County Levee Improvement District number 10, Fort Bend County Levee Improvement District number 11, and that portion of Fort Bend County mud number 116 that is within Lid 11's levee, Fort Bend County Levee Improvement District number 14, Fort Bend County Levee District number 15, Fort Bend County Levee Improvement District number 17, Fort Bend County Levee Improvement District number 19, Fort Bend County Levee Improvement District number 2, the Pecan Grove Municipal Utility District, and Sienna Plantation Levee Improvement District. These are voluntary evacuations because the engineers and the operators for these believe that they are protected, but there may be the inability once the water gets above 56 or 7, we've never been there before, there may be an inability for them to move in and out of their subdivisions to go to the doctor, to go to the grocery store and do things like that. So we believe they should understand that risk of staying there. The risk is not that they'll get water in their home. The risk is they may be locked in. Right now, the Weather Bureau's forecast says that we will reach the 59 if we do. We will reach it 6 p.m. Tuesday, but we will stay at 59 at least through Friday. So we're talking about about a third of a day on Tuesday, then all of Wednesday, all of Thursday, all of Friday. We don't know what happens after Friday. We assume it starts to go down, but their graph ends on Friday, so it's still at 59 feet. So we want everybody out there that's on voluntary evacuation to understand that we've been convinced that the levee is sound, but there are a lot of inconveniences if they stay there.
Can you give us a sense of how many people are impacted by both of these voluntary and mandatory evacuations? So we listed off a lot of numbers.
Well, there are a lot of numbers, and I know that most of them have Fort Bend County lid number something, which doesn't tell folks a lot. We have a map here that shows where they are. We will put exhibits on the internet, and we'll send it out to the media that will not only show that in great detail, but it will list the subdivisions that are impacted. The color codes are red is mandatory, and that sort of pukish lime green there is voluntary. Obviously, I wouldn't have picked that color, but that's neat.
So we talking a couple hundred people, a couple of thousand people?
In the mandatory, we know it's a little over 50,000 people, okay? And we think it's about 60,000 plus, and maybe a little bit more than that in the voluntary. So we're talking 110 to 130,000 people, which is about 20% of our population.
We were just out along the Brazos, and some of that, what was initially a voluntary evacuation, were now upgraded to a mandatory evacuation. There were people still in their homes. I know that has just been upgraded, but your message to those folks in those mandatory evacuation orders in that area, what do you tell them? They say, well, it doesn't look too bad right now.
Well, what we tell them is that it doesn't look too bad right now. The river is at 35 feet. It's not even at flood stage yet. But we have a tremendous amount of water being dumped in the watershed of the Brazos. We have even more water being dumped in the Bryan, College Station, Navasota, Giddings corridor, which is above us. It all will be coming through Fort Bend County in the next few days. The water's going to get high. I don't know that it'll reach 59, but I have to make my decisions based on the forecast elevation. I'm hoping that it doesn't. But I'm fairly confident, since they took it from 56 to 59, they're pretty well assured it's going to go through 56. 56 is the 100-year flood elevation at the Richmond Bridge. So we're going to have at least a 100-year event, and we could have an 800 or 900-year event if it goes to 59.
And when you talk about a 100-year event or 800 or 900-year event, what does that mean? Thousands of homes?
That means that means there are thousands of homes, and you bring up a very good point. We're speaking to the levee districts that I have direct authority to order evacuations. I could order evacuations of entire cities, but that's not the way I manage things. I don't have enough data in my possession to decide what other evacuations should take place within the cities in the county. I'm leaving that to the mayors, councils, and city managers, and I know many of them are having special meetings, probably as we speak, to grapple with the same data. So there will be other, I'm sure, evacuations, both mandatory and volunteer, ordered in throughout the municipalities in the county. We have 18 of them. So this is just the first step. But we have, as you can see, we have about 20% of the population living behind levees right now. And they're my call, and I choose to make that so we get it out. The advice to those people that are hearing them, there's no sense to pack. You don't have to pack up and leave town tonight in the middle of the night. That's not why we're here. We want to give folks time. We won't get to 59 till, according to the forecast, about 6 o'clock Tuesday. So we have all of Monday for people to move. They need to realize, though, that once we go through about 52 feet, various roads in the county will start to close. By 56 feet, Highway 6 will be closed south of US 59. The Grand Parkway will be shut down because we'll have to close the Stabenow Bridge because the pier will be basically underwater, and that we're trying to repair, and we can't take the risk that the river actually takes that weakened pier out. Farm to Market 723, which is the main other crossing out of Rosenberg that goes across the Brazos River, it will be closed because of high water just on the other side of the river through Rio Brazos, and it runs for about 3 miles there that we'll have 5 to 6 feet of water over that road. We had that last Memorial Day 2016. So we're going to lose a lot of roads. We have an idea right now of the additional roads we'll lose. But basically, the longer you wait to seek shelter, especially if you're going to go to stay with mom or grandma or somebody you went to college with that's got a couple extra rooms, you need to get out before, you'll still be able to get out all day tomorrow, but you may have to take a very circuitous route to find a way out of town. We will be opening shelters. We're not ready to announce those shelters, but we will announce those shelters first thing in the morning. And we're trying to establish shelters that will handle up to 3,000 people. I know that's a small number, but Fort Bend County, we're a fast-growing county with about 750,000 people, but we don't have an abundance of very large facilities. We wish we had the George R. Brown out here for a lot of reasons, but one of the things, it will handle a whole lot of people. So we will have shelters, and they will be announced first thing in the morning, if not sooner.
We have a mistake on the map, my fault.
Okay, well, there's a mistake on the map, but we'll correct it. That's Commissioner James Patterson, Precinct 4. Just taking the blame. I like a commissioner who'll take the bullet for the judge. I appreciate that.
Judge, as part of hospitals, nursing homes, we've seen things out in the Houston area being impacted. Are we doing anything?
We're in conference. We've got a lot of folks on second floor. We're talking to every hospital in the county, going over, telling them what to expect. We're reviewing. We've got a lot of them looking for their slab elevation, so if they give their slab elevation back to us, we can look at our drainage map on the computer.
You've just been watching a press conference with the folks from Fort Bend County Office of Emergency Management. They are talking about some mandatory and some voluntary evacuations involving up to 130,000 people who live on or near the Brazos River, because they're expecting that to crest by 6 p.m. on Tuesday at 59 feet. They say they've never seen it get that high in its history.
And they were talking about all the communities that will be impacted down the line, roads that will be closed, areas that will be impassable in days to come. So we will continue to stay on this story. Also, we need to let you know of voluntary evacuation in Inverness Forest Subdivision up in North Harris County. That is a concern because of 5 to 8 feet that will breach Cypress Creek, the levee there. By the morning, 200 homes could flood. Water expected to go over the top of the levee. So let me just go over this area one more time. This is Inverness Forest Subdivision in North Harris County. They're talking about 5 to 8 feet of water to breach the Cypress Creek levee by morning.
So, water, going over the top of that levee. And so, Harvey just doing so much damage, and we haven't even seen the end of it yet. We won't for a number of days. One thing that Sylvester Turner, the mayor of Houston, has done, he has started what is known as the Hurricane Harvey Relief Fund. You see information there on your screen.
And it looks like you can go online to ghcf.org. And you can see check or money orders can be made to the Greater Houston Community Foundation, 5120 Woodway Drive, Suite 6000, Houston 77056. So you can donate either online or by mail. Any money will go to help this area recover from what has been a disastrous couple of days and will continue to be as we continue to follow the stories of dams and reservoirs being released because they simply cannot hold more water. The impact that is going to have on communities, the impact all this rainfall that we have received tonight, what that will have. There are so many people, Keith, who are displaced now, people who have been sitting on top of rooftops for hours today. They're the lucky ones. They're the ones that have been plucked out and taken to places to be able to get dry, to use a restroom and eat some food.
Yeah, there are some folks who are still inside their homes right now with feet of water inside. Some folks who earlier in the day and even yesterday we know had rushed into their attics because the water was rising so fast and so high. And we've been telling folks at the behest of all our law enforcement agencies to make sure you don't go to your attic because that's the last place you want to be. But it just gives you a little insight into the dire situation that so many people are in right now across our entire area.
The stories of desperation and yet the stories of relief and thanks to kind souls, kind citizens who step up, kind people who work in our community, who do this every single day. Lainey Fritz has been...
Before we go to Lainey, we want to take you back to that car there in Katy, I-10 Katy, the Katy Freeway and FM 1463. It looks like there has been some type of rescue effort that gotten underway. We're being told right now you can still see the windshield wipers on that particular vehicle. Again, this is the Katy Freeway at excuse me, FM 1463. We're trying to see what type of rescue apparatus might have been placed into the water. Hard to see any individuals or perhaps a crane.
There's a flashlight. If you look there where they have the time code and the date.
Yes.
I see some motion, and you see people.
Oh, yeah, right there under those numbers.
Yes, and I see there was somebody moving a flashlight aimed in the direction of that vehicle. So we still don't have confirmation if somebody is in that car. We do find it unbelievable that the windshield wipers are still working on that vehicle, but there are now people poised and trained on that area.
Yeah. And if you see on your screen next to that 338 on that bridge, the I-10 bridge, you can see an individual who is pointing, and then to the left of that, where you see the time code, as Dominic mentioned, a couple of people, you see more folks there, and don't know if they're actually in the water, but
right, we don't have much perspective, but
no.
if they're, I don't know.
You see that flashlight though,
yeah.
One of those flashlights. But we've been told that they might have.
And now more people congregating there to see bottom right. Mm-hmm. Look, someone's going over. It looks like the side of that bridge. I wish that camera could pan down a little bit more, but you can clearly see something's going on. I don't know if that person is going to attempt to get in the water, but that's the first time that I've seen somebody climb over.
Yeah, the folks on the bridge who just did that climbing, they don't appear to be dressed as any type of rescue crew member. They look to be in, t-shirt and jeans, perhaps.
And maybe communicating with the people.
Yeah, exactly. The folks with the flashlight. But again, this is Katy Freeway, FM 1463. If you're familiar with that area, on the northwest corner of that intersection is the Merrill Center. Then on the south side of that, some subdivisions.
There's a car that just drove by.
Yes. And where the car drove by the water obviously wasn't as high, but the car that they might be affecting this rescue at, certainly it's almost completely submerged. And it's just odd, almost eerie that these windshield wipers just continue. So it just panned up. And for a moment, and don't see that car that drove by.
There it is. See it all the way in the distance?
So it's gone. Yeah, it just went ahead and drove by. So it wasn't part of any rescue attempt. But now, and we also just saw two individuals at the bottom of the screen, and they appear to be not necessarily in the water, but on the ground, on almost the same level as the car.
And Justin, has the rain let up in that part of town? I can't see any more rain falling there.
It's starting to, guys. If you want to jump over to Max 4 real quick, I'll zoom in a little tighter so that you can see what we've got, and then either we can box and box, or if you want to flip between the two, too. So yeah, it finally has. So there's Katy, and as Keith, you said it's on the south side there, correct?
Yes, yeah, that appears to be on the south side there.
So that's where it is. So it looks like that's starting to lit up, and let's kind of put a bigger bow on this here. Not only just for that area, but my goodness, finally starting to let up for the folks across Cinco Ranch, Katy, and Mission Bend as well, that has been under just a fire hose all day, and that's slowly moving. So yes, to long-winded answer your question here, Dominique, it has ended for now. But I was just looking at this, guys, when you came to me here. We're still seeing some of that heavy feeders moving in just north of the Gulf Freeway now. So Kemah, LaPorte, Seabrook, as you get towards the Highlands area. And then, of course, that's putting Channelview also into play, and all across the east side, which actually hasn't seen as much rain earlier. That's, Jacinto City, as you go towards the U of H campus. And then last night, when we were talking, guys, the trouble we had towards 610 and I-10 there too, and they had the closures. So I can tell you that I live over on the east side, and eastbound and westbound I-10 was underwater.
Oh, look, there's somebody right next to it.
There's a boat that just drove, that just went right by it, and they are now at the back of that vehicle.
You know what? It makes me think someone's
got to be in.
Someone's got to be in there if they're trying to.
And the water level has come up as we've been watching this.
Yeah.
And don't know exactly. They're going to try to get in the back of that vehicle somehow. At least that's what it appears. Looks like they might have some type of device to break it.
Because I bet more of that window is exposed toward the back because of the angle, the way that car is pitched.
Well, this will certainly be remarkable. Someone inside this car, because we first noticed this shot, about 25, 30 minutes ago?
30 minutes ago, yeah.
And who knows how long they were in there before that.
Yeah.
Incredible. So we just saw some type of a jet ski or some type of a little power boat go alongside, and now we can see somebody on the back end of that car.
Yeah, and we know our assignment desk producers have to be on the phone in touch with this would either be Katy Police or Fort Wayne County Sheriffs or perhaps the constable there. We certainly need to get in touch with them to see if any of those agencies are involved in this particular rescue. But yeah, there were two individuals on a boat who just flew up to this vehicle, and they're now at the back end of it.
I see one person. Do you see another? Or
yeah, well, I can't see the second person, but there were definitely two people on the boat when it flew up.
Right. Well, one must still be on it, and so maybe just to drop this person off. It looks like he just reeled in something. Maybe he was trying to get a basket or some type of something to attach.
Yeah. If he's not going to break that window, it could be too dangerous to do that. Depending on where this individual is, he could have some type of device to get that lock, to jimmy the lock and get inside that door.
Oh, that would be a good idea.
And so there's the other individual with a boat. On that boat, and now that person, and there's a third person in the boat as well. So we're watching what we hope and pray is a rescue mission.
They're moving quickly. Yeah, there's a definite sense of urgency.
And I wonder if that was the individual.
I was just gonna say.
Yeah, that might be the person in the back.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's the person in the car.
Could there be more people in this car too?
Yeah, not taken off yet. It almost appears that there's still someone in the back of that vehicle, but it's.
They're trying to break the front windshield, or no, just we're just shining a light in there.
So there
hard to say.
Two individuals who rode up on that boat, and then there was one person that they just pulled inside.
Which was the gentleman we saw sitting on the back, is that correct? So it was one.
Yeah, so he must have, it looks like he was the person who was in that vehicle and was able to get out the back.
That's
yes.
Incredible.
Wow. And so maybe they threw him a life jacket or something, and that's what we saw him reeling in, but it looks like at this point it was a successful rescue. My goodness.
Oh, there we go. We can see more now. They just tipped the camera down, so they've made it to a dry spot.
We've been watching this person out. It's been in that water for at least 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
As far as we've seen.
As far as we've seen, who knows how much longer we might.
Here we go. They're getting this person out. Unbelievable. You know that, I believe it's a man, is thanking every single person on that boat at this moment. He's got 5 heroes to thank tonight.
Cannot imagine what it would be like to be inside of a vehicle that's almost completely submerged.
I mean, can you imagine how horrifying?
No.
And waiting.
But he was smart to keep the windshield wipers going.
Yes,
to alert people. That's exactly right.
Yeah, it's funny how y'all didn't get the clue, but I did.
They stayed working.
Yeah.
And now they're getting
him up.
Goodness,
What do y'all do for a living?
Amazing
how much you make?
To see that amazing rescue story right there. Again, this is
I'm broke,
Katy,
bitch.
Right off the Katy Freeway and FM 1463. So
unbelievable.
Yeah, wow.
Unbelievable to witness. Well, we are so grateful for every person we see right there on that boat. And, like we say, this is one of many rescues. Can you imagine how many stories like this are to be told today? Just today. Not to mention the ones that happened yesterday, the ones to come tomorrow.
Well, we heard from the Coast Guard. I mean, they've had, 250 individuals who were rescued today. The city of Houston, a few hours ago, they were in the middle of more than 100 rescue operations. And so, we've had well over 1,000 rescue operations.
And when people get rescued, they are immediately taken to shelters, safe places, and we have our Bill Spencer at Dobie High School in Pasadena. That's where a shelter has been set up to help folks on the southeast side. Bill?
Yes, Dominique, and I've got some heartwarming pictures to show you, the people that are so glad that they have got shelter and food, and they are dry right now. Look at this family that just laid down to go to sleep here, a mother and father and their 2 children. We have a father over here with his 2 beautiful daughters right here. People here at Dobie High School are sprawled out all over every square inch of floor that you can find, and that's where they are making their home tonight. This is all they have to go to, but they seem to be in pretty good spirits. Look at this family over here. If you take a walk with me, they've got a play set up for the child, for the baby. All the kids are together. They've made their own makeshift bedding. And they were a little while ago telling stories, bedtime stories, and with puppets. I don't know if you can see that family over there, but it's kind of heartwarming to see something soft and warm on what has been such a horrible few days here. This is E.J. Stinson and his wife Veronica right here. They are from the Pearland Acres trailer park. That's where they lived up until this morning. You guys were rescued. How were you rescued? Tell me, dear.
The fire trucks.
The fire trucks?
The fire department came and got us in a boat.
In a boat?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Where were you guys when they came to get you?
Well, our trailer is located in the front of the trailer park.
On the porch.
And we were up on the porch, and the water was right at the edge of our porch.
Wow.
So another, maybe foot, and it would come in the house.
It would have been in there with you. You were worried about your dogs. Tell me about how many dogs you got.
We have 5 doggies at home.
You got a pug and a fox?
Yeah, I have a pug named Zeus, a boxer named Matilda, and my daughter has... She has 2 dogs, Babe and Gizmo. And
you had to leave the dogs at the trailer? Tell me about that. What?
Well, when they rescued us, they told us we couldn't bring our dogs to the recreation center. Where we thought we was going to be at.
Right.
But then we wound up being over here and noticing that everybody was able to bring their pets, and we were like, well, if we'd have known that, we would have run our pets with us.
I understand. Can you go back and get them?
We're not allowed. From what we understand, nobody's allowed back over there because it's all underwater, and it's just really hard to get back to it.
Boy, we hope the dogs will be okay. They got some food to eat over there?
Yes.
Food and water. You left them with food and water?
Yes, sir.
Good planning. Let me introduce you to one more woman over here. This is Miss, what is it, Ashley, right? No, Ashley's the dog. This is Julie Baker. Julie, you live in the trailer park as well. Tell me about your rescue. Where did they find you?
We were near the back of the trailer park, but we went to the front of the air mattress, and they came and got us when we got close to the front.
By boat?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and is it just you by yourself, ma'am?
No, I'm here with my daughter, my son-in-law, and my 3 grandbabies.
And did you find a place to sleep in the high school here?
Yes, several places.
Okay. You got a bedding, pillows, and all that stuff? What are they providing you with here at the shelter?
Well, we got food and water and bedding and the clothes if you needed it. We were all wet when we came in. They gave us dry clothes and a way to get warm because we were freezing and cold and just wet.
I can't imagine. When did you get here?
We got here about 2 o'clock.
And tell me about your street. You live off of County Road 143. What did that look like when you left?
Water.
How deep was the water?
Well, I know the boats were riding along there, but the fire engines were up on the road, which was a little higher.
Okay.
But where the neighborhood was, there was water. Just water.
How are you feeling right now?
A lot better. Not so cold.
You guys pretty thankful?
Yeah. We're very grateful. We're grateful for the fire department being there. And like I was saying, this is the worst storm I've seen since 83, Alicia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. The worst storm I've seen since then, and because I've seen it rain and be flooded over there, but nothing like this.
Nothing like this. How about you, dear? Ever seen anything like this before?
No, it's my first time. This storm kind of caught everybody in surprise. We weren't expecting them for it to turn to a Cat 4 and just steady span and just keep drawing the Gulf water in and Gulf water in. And, roll after roll after. That night it kept bringing the water and bringing the water, and just Okay, finally just built up, you know, we're like,
Well,
what are we going to do now?
You guys are from New Orleans. You know about water.
Louisiana.
Yeah, from New Orleans.
I'm an islander. I was born and raised on Galveston Island.
Oh, you are? Okay. All right. Well, listen, God bless you guys. I hope you can sleep well tonight. And thank you for talking to us.
Okay.
I really do appreciate it. God bless you. Yeah, that's the stories we've been hearing. I wish I could take you inside the shelter here. They prefer us to stay out here, which is fine. But as you can see, these people are doing fine tonight. They've got they're dry. That's the main thing. Most of them walked in here soaking wet, drenched from head to toe, I'm told. And now they've got clean and dry clothing, they've got bedding, and they got a place to stay tonight. And the way things have been going in our area over the past 2 days, that's quite something.
No, it is.
Reporting live in Pasadena, Bill Spencer, KPRC, Channel 2 News. Back to you.
So happy to see that family rescued and together, and along with their pets as well.
That's right. High and dry is the place to be tonight. Bill, thank you so much. The George R. Brown has become sort of like everybody's home these days. Lainey Fritz is there. A convention center is now a shelter for so many. Lainey?
Yeah, that's exactly right. We got here about an hour ago, and at the time, this area, I believe, was under a tornado warning, and we just saw a flood of people start coming through here at the GRB. It's been pouring down rain really off and on since we got here, and so we're just seeing tons and tons of people come through here. Similar scene to what Bill was saying, just drenched head to toe. Some of them missing shoes. You can tell they've been walking through pretty high floodwaters to get here to safety, but once they get inside, a much better scene for them. They're getting fresh clothes. They even have a first aid station set up in there where they've really been caring for there have been a few people coming in who are injured. I'm not sure if they were cut in the floodwater. And they're really just taking care of everybody in here, giving them a fresh set of clothes. As you can see, once you walk in, you do have to go through the security here. And I did talk to the man in charge, and he told me to make sure no weapons are allowed in here. They've already had a couple people bringing weapons, not to harm anyone, but they just have their handguns on them, and they will remove them from you. They want this to be a safe environment for everyone. They want everyone to come here and feel completely safe. So if you come here and have your weapon, they will confiscate it at the front here in the security check-in. So follow me. Let's walk towards here where we can see once you get past the security check-in. They also told me you can bring about anything you would take on a plane would be okay to bring in here. I've seen lots of pets as well. Of course, tons of families. And once you come in through these doors in the lobby, you'll check in. I think they'll ask you what you may need here at the front. And then you come in to this main open room here. Directly when you walk in, to your right is where you can get care if you're hurt. This American Red Cross station. And then you just see people laying down, taking naps, lots of kids. Earlier we saw some kids playing, kind of trying to make the most out of a hard time here, but everyone just jumping in, helping out each other. And they urge you, if you are in this area and you can get here safely, they have plenty of room. They're at about over 1,300. When we got here an hour ago, they told us they had 1,300 people here, and they said they could easily double that number and be just fine. So if you are in the downtown area by the George R. Brown Convention Center and you need a safe place and you feel that you can get here safely at this time, they're urging more and more people to come with open arms, taking care of everybody. You having a good time? The kids here are really making the best out of their time, and that's what we like to see. What's your name?
Melody.
Melody, when did you get here, sweetheart?
Early this morning.
Oh, so you've been here the full day?
Uh-huh.
Are you getting a little antsy, or what are you doing while you're here?
Having fun.
Having fun? Do you have brothers and sisters or friends that you're making?
Sisters. And friends too.
And was your house flooded?
Yes, it was.
So did you get some dry clothes when you got here?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you for talking with me tonight. I appreciate it. I'm going to send it back to you guys.
Lenny, before we let you go, they said they still have plenty of room, but for folks who are having a hard time to get there, do they have some type of mechanism, a shuttle system that they can get there from other parts of the Houston area?
That I do not know. I know they've got plenty of emergency vehicles outside, police cars, ambulances, and I'm seeing them helping people in. So I'm not sure if they're kind of going around this area and helping people. I'm not sure about a shuttle, but I can definitely check on that and let you guys know.
Yes, there are a lot of people from Meyerland who are stuck and looking for a place to go. So that would be a great inquiry if you could make that, lady. Thank you so much. We need to check in with our weather guys right now. More weather to talk about tonight.
We certainly do. Thank you very much, Dominique and Keith. Let's see what we've got. We got a new tornado warning. I believe this is an extension of the one that we were seeing in Chambers County. I just had someone on Twitter ask me the question, hey, is there any new development on the spin-up? No, it's still a radar-indicated tornado warning, so we don't have any confirmation of anything hitting the ground just yet. But it's in that same area, and this is the pattern we've seen all day with the heavy bands moving on through, including this cluster right here. So that goes until 11 o'clock. I'll continue to watch these. Let me show you how far or fast that's been moving, I should say. Looks like that has been moving around 30 miles an hour to the north. These are coming in at a pretty good clip as well. In addition, still seeing some pretty strong feeder bands moving on through now portions of East Harris County. And Frank, we've seen a lot of rain in not only north and central Harris County, but out towards Cypress as well.
Yeah, Jeff Linder referred to that, just some unprecedented rainfall rates. You can only get these kind of rainfall rates if you're getting a training effect of just one storm after another. We saw this line, which now is anywhere from southeast Harris County continuing right across toward Montgomery County. So we're going to have to keep a close eye on it. This is 6 hours of radar. I'll zip in here a little bit, and you can see that heavy rain on the Katy area, right up through Cypress, Central Harris County, North Harris County. All of that rain has continued to just hammer this area, really since this afternoon. Here's some 6-hour rainfall rates, which more than an inch an hour, but look how it adds up. And that's what we've been talking about the whole time. If you only get an inch an hour, that's okay, but if it's for 24 hours, you're 24 inches of rain. That's been the problem. 6.7, 7.8 in Katy, 9.4 there in Waller County, 5.6, 5.2 in north central Harris County, 8.1 out by the Kingwood area and Lake Houston. So those are the kind of 6-hour rainfall rates that we have seen. So let's take a look at this whole complex, and this is really interesting. This is our spin, and you can see that it almost looks like this wants to be the last hurrah. Nobody's going to say that, right? Because there's just that potential for more rain coming in, especially with some of these bands. So we're going to have to watch this all night. But you can see what I see here. I'm going to zip it out, show you what we've been talking about with this dry air trying to work its way in. Look at that. That's the water vapor loop, which measures the moisture actually in the air. And when you see this golden color and these browns, earlier I was just hoping to see some grays, and we were getting a little bit of this gray, and that was good. But now we're getting just some bona fide golden colors in there. And you'll notice how these showers, as they try to move into that, they can't hold up, so they're not doing much there. With any luck at all, the moist air is there, and the drier air, look at that, trying to pull on in. And the low, obviously, it's pulling this moisture into Texas, but it's also pulling this dry air into the center of the system as well. That may bode very well for us as it tries to continue to move off to the north eventually. The official movement in the 10 o'clock advisory with 40-mile-an-hour winds is east-southeast. The Hurricane Center says there's probably not really any 40-mile-an-hour winds around the center, but with the bands that we've been seeing, there certainly are, especially the ones over water, so they kept it at 40 miles an hour. So that's where that comes from. The movement east-southeast would put this over water for at least a little while, which may at least continue 40, 45-mile-an-hour winds. We've updated this. This particular model still wants to bring in heavy, heavy rain from now until Wednesday on the order of 12 and even 16 inches of rain. I guess that's possible. I mean, you see what we saw today. When I just showed you 6 to 9 inches of rain just in the last 6 hours. So we don't want to rule anything out, but just looking at the whole structure is very, I think, optimistic. Here's a look at wind speeds along with the line that's forecast, and you can see at least some tropical storm force winds coming in across the area, 35 to 40 anyway, an increase in the tides, a little bit of an increase with some surge, but not really a coastal event per se, just a nasty low-pressure system moving along the coast. Spaghetti models, this is kind of interesting because as you look at them, they're really very much wanting to move this off to the east. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And moving right across Galveston Bay and the eastern part of Texas and on into Louisiana. So looking better and better. But officially, the National Hurricane Center is still warning of 15 to 25 inches more rain through Friday, 1 to 3 foot storm surges with rip currents and swells, and 35 to 45 mile an hour sustained winds. Let's keep our fingers crossed that that's a busted forecast, but let's also keep our eye to the sky pretty carefully. Dominique?
Absolutely, Frank. Thank you so much. Joining us on the phone right now is Jeff Lindner, Harris County Flood Control District. Jeff, thank you very much for joining us.
Jeff, you've got a voluntary evacuation to talk about in North Harris County, and also you are referring to as a self-evacuation in another part of town.
Yeah, this is for the Inverness Forest subdivision, and this is for all streets north of Kingsbridge Road, including east and west Greenbrook Drive and Kinchester Drive. And what the concern we have is that the water levels in Cypress Creek are forecast to get very high tonight, and they may approach the top of this levee. And so the back part, the north end of this subdivision is very low, and the front is a little bit higher. And so we're concerned with that particular section of the subdivision that's in the back part near the levee. If water were to go over the top of the levee, the water would build up in that part of the subdivision to possibly 8 or 9 or 10 feet deep in some of the homes. So we wanted to make people aware of the potential for this, and we have information now that a shelter is going to be established at Lone Star College at 2700 W.W. Thorne, but that shelter will not be available until about 1 o'clock in the morning.
So what are people supposed to do between now and then? Obviously, they need to evacuate.
Well, right now, there's no rush because we don't expect the water level to possibly reach the top until about sunrise tomorrow morning.
Okay.
So there's no rush right now, but what you should be doing is getting stuff up as high as you can in your house, collecting your valuables, take any type of medications, important papers, and insurance policies, put that stuff in the car. That's the stuff you want to take with you. So that's what we're urging people to do right now. And, I understand the situation is potentially frightening for somebody up there. We have very heavy rain falling on that area right now. And so the street situation is going to be very difficult to get around. But we felt that we needed to get this information out because if we waited until in the morning, it would already potentially be in progress. So we felt we needed to get that out this evening.
All right, Jeff, you're talking about evacuation in the Inverness Forest subdivision, but you have instructions on another evacuation that you are terming, or you have termed tonight as a self-evacuation. We're talking about the one involving the release of the Addicks Reservoir. That's going to start that release is going to begin in about 3 hours.
Yeah, and again, that is a Corps of Engineer release that is going to be taking place. The flood control district does not operate the reservoirs, and we have no control over them. That is all the Army Corps of Engineer. And the voluntary evacuation is not due to the release of the reservoir, to the release of the water out of the reservoirs. It is due to the pool elevation, the water behind the dam that is going to be building up and potentially getting into some of the subdivisions along the western part of the pool. And I know that's a little bit confusing because when you hear you're releasing water, it's going one way, so the water should be going down. It's a little bit different on Addicks and Barker in that these creeks that come into it produce a lot of flow. And so releasing water out of it is a fraction of the amount of flow coming into it. And so that is why you can still have flooding on the upstream or the west side of these pools and the reservoirs.
Well, it sounds like a belt that's tight that needs to be loosened, and the Army Corps of Engineers is figuring out a way to loosen it. It's still going to have a tremendous impact, though, to communities along Buffalo Bayou, which is where this water will travel.
Yeah, I just looked at the situation along Buffalo Bayou right now, and the flooding right now, because Addicks Barker has been closed, there's no water coming out. The flooding along the bayou right now at West Belt, the bayou is nearly 7.5 feet over its banks. And that is just from the rainfall.
Right.
So there is catastrophic, and and I can't even emphasize this enough, catastrophic flooding in progress along Buffalo Bayou right now. And the water that will be released out of Buffalo Bayou or out of the Addicks Reservoir will go into Buffalo Bayou, but it is not going to have a substantial increase in the water level. We would have a much more substantial increase in the water level from the rainfall that's occurring than the release.
And explain why that is.
Because the rainfall, the volume of water falling out of the sky is a lot more than the volume of water that is going to be coming out of the release. I mean, there's just in the last hour alone, another 3 to 4 inches has fallen right at that location around Beltway 8 and I-10 on Buffalo Bayou, and so the result has been huge amounts of rain. That's also where the portion of the toll road wall collapsed, and water is pouring over the side of the toll road into the toll road right there, and so the amount of water, just like we were dealing with last night with these really incredible rainfall rates, the amount of water that is going down, that is falling down on that area right now is very, very hard.
Yeah, Jeff, you told us earlier that as a result of the release from Addicks, that there were going to be some people who have up to 2 feet of water in their homes that could be in there for up to 2 months. How quickly will we start to see the impact on any of those homes from this, even though you say it's going to be minimal?
Okay. We need to get this right. The release of the water coming out of the reservoir is going to go downstream into Buffalo Bayou.
Buffalo Bayou, correct.
Yes. Okay. The flooding of upstream is from the pool elevation. It has nothing to do with the release of the water. That is the water flowing in to the reservoir from Waller County and western Harris County. Okay? So what happens is the pool will rise and it will back up into those areas to the north and the west. And those subdivisions will have flooding. The water may get a foot in some cases. In some cases it may get 6 inches. In other cases it may get a lot deeper. It depends on the elevation. And those locations will be flooded for an extended period of time. Now, as the rain finally stops, here hopefully in the next couple of days, Buffalo Bayou will begin to fall because there is no more water coming into it downstream of the reservoir, right? It's going to take time. There's no more what we call local runoff. That's water coming in from the roadside ditches and the street drainage and all that. Even though the water will be released out of the reservoir, Buffalo Bayou will be falling because the rain has stopped.
I guess, Jeff, maybe the concern that people are feeling, and it's a palpable one, is that you've had all this rainfall that you noted today that we've had that has flown into Buffalo Bayou, and then the timing of this release, which is taking place at 2 o'clock this morning, which will allow more water to come in Buffalo Bayou. So the thinking is that you've got these two entities of water that are coming together at the same time, and that is probably what's creating the concern.
Yeah, and I understand, people are dealing with the concern right now and what's going to be happening. And the Corps of Engineers can probably explain this better, so I would encourage y'all to talk to them to get more information on their operation plan and how they're going to be doing this. But what people need to realize is the flooding along Buffalo Bayou already right now is disastrous, and the amount of water that is going to be released out of the reservoir later tonight is not going to have that much of an impact downstream compared to the amount of rain that is already falling out of the sky right now.
Okay, so we understand the perspective and the message you're trying to get across, and we do appreciate that. We do know that a lot of people can go to our website to take a look at your flood control maps to show which communities are going to be targeted by this. And, we have advised people who live near these reservoirs to be able to evacuate in time if they feel that they need to, if they feel that they will be greatly impacted by this. And, of course, we're going to have to watch and wait tomorrow and see what the picture brings and to see what kind of impact our communities along Buffalo Bayou will be experiencing.
Jeff Linder, Harris County Flood Control District, thanks so much for your time again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have now a look at the radar, and we are watching the spin, the circulation that we have seen all night. Our only little glimmer of hope is this dry air that's filtering in, and hopefully this has an impact on
it will.
What it's doing. Yeah, to create a little pocket.
Encouraging pocket. I mean, it's having an impact now. And so, I mean, it can't not have an impact. The question is, will this system regenerate over water and fill back in and just produce that much more rain? And like Jeff said, we've got to stop the rain to get the bayous to start draining, and then everything will be all right. But that's going to take some time. Now, here is a pretty healthy little feeder band that we've been talking for so long about. The feeder band from last night went all the way down to Brownsville, and this one hasn't until what we see there. So it's still developing. So we need to move that off to the east. And it looks like that's what wants to happen. Now, let me show you a couple of model forecasts. We're going to go to the HRRR. This is what we have right now. And the HRRR initializes that pretty darn well. And I want you to notice how it moves it toward Louisiana. Now, it doesn't make the ranges completely go away, but this heavier band and these strong storms that have had tornadoes with it, that continues to move off toward the Beaumont area and Louisiana. So the bulk of this really nasty heavy weather and strong rains does move off to the northeast. Now, that's by 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. So we will know pretty quickly, really quickly, if this is verifying. So that's going to be a help. But you'll notice we still have showers. We don't just have clear air like out in San Angelo and Del Rio. So we still have this wraparound. The question is going to be, what does this system get enough structure to it so that it's strong enough to bring this wraparound back in? Or will it not? Will the dry air maybe impede that possibility as this tries to send away? This model says, watch out. You can still see more of these showers coming on in. Here's another look. This is what we have right now. There's the band. We're going to go to the RPM, and you'll see there it is. So it's picking it up very well. So when the models initiate what we actually have, that ground truth, then they're much more reliable. Now, this RPM continues to also push this all toward Louisiana, but it doesn't completely make the rain go away, although the heaviest of it does stay generally off to the east and the northeast. That's through 10 o'clock on Tuesday. So given both models and given that it's pretty clear that dry air is continuing to filter in here, and look at that, it really has a strong pull, and even this golden color is making it all the way into the Gulf. So given that the structure is so weak, in fact, the Hurricane Center has said that it's so weak there really aren't 40-mile-an-hour winds with it, but there are in those bands, feeder bands, so that's why they kept it as a tropical storm. So that's at least some hope that the rains will begin to diminish. But we've already seen, and you know, what we saw yesterday into this morning, we've seen another 6 to 9 inches of rain just in the last 6 hours in some areas. So that problem is exacerbated, and then this river problem has continued to be an issue, and is going to be, because with 20 inches of rain past up to Brenham, all of that has to come down through the rivers to get to the Gulf of Mexico, and that means they're going to go up. So we're going to have a problem with that. The Brazos River at Richmond is forecast to go to a major record stage and stay there right on into next week and probably on into Labor Day. Cypress Creek near Westfield is major now and will be getting even higher, which is what we've been talking about, and the reason for some of these releases. Then we got Colorado River at Wharton. That forecast also to record levels by tonight and tomorrow, and it stays there right on in through the week and the weekend. The San Bernard River at Bowling does the same thing. Everything's going into a major stage. That's pretty obvious across the area. And now we have a new tornado warning, I understand.
I was going to say, yeah, Frank, we got a new tornado warning here. It's an extension of the one that we've been tracking for about a little over an hour now. It first worked its way onshore in southern Chambers County, right off the Bolivar, now starting to slice its way just north and east of Trinity Bay. I'm going to zoom in a little tighter on that one. That goes to 11:45, so about for the next 30 minutes here. Not only that, but east side, Frank, really getting hammered right now. You know, we've got some heavy rain and just an enormous amount of lightning between Highlands, LaPorte, and Channelview. What we're seeing over east.
I think those storms are dropping 1 to 2 inches of rain per hour.
Yeah, I'll check that on flood control here in just a second. But you can see there's Anahuac right in the center of that. Let me jump over to the velocity and we'll see if we can pick anything up. So, yeah, as we expected, this is what we. Oh, there we go at the very.
That's a nice little couple.
Yeah, that's not bad actually. Let's go right to the center. So similar to the one that we saw earlier this evening, about an hour ago, that first one that rolled on through, we were seeing a fairly tight little couplet. What we mean by that is this right here. It's an indication where you have some, winds going in towards the radar, the winds going out of the radar, very tight little area of circulation in between that, and that's where we could be seeing a potential tornado at this point. It's, knock on wood, none of these have done any damage so far yet today. What kind of rainfall rates?
3 inches per hour. I've got 3 inches in the last hour in Deer Park, 2.76 in Pasadena, 2.92 in Galena Park, 2.84 up at near the 5th Ward, 2.24 up 59 off toward just to the north of Bush Intercontinental.
Oh, and it just went under a tornado warning too.
Wow.
So
until 11, so we have 2, 11:30, 11:45.
And 11:45. Pop over to the chat. Let's
make sure and see what
let's see
we've got on that.
See anything on that.
And by the way, we have an aerial flood warning now for Fort Bend and Harris County.
Okay.
On the west side,
which is what we were just discussing.
I was just telling you about all that heavy rain that we've got going there. Tornado warning for Harris County now. That's until 11:30, and as radar indicated, the rotation there, so nothing has actually been spotted there.
No, not yet. So good enough, or good to know, I should say, that Channelview, if you're watching us right now in Channelview, you probably need to take shelter because this is a fairly strong wind. How fast are these moving? Anywhere from 25 miles an hour. Okay, moving north about 25 miles an hour. So they're trucking pretty good as they work their way through. But as Frank just mentioned, we've been dropping rainfall rates between 2 and 3 inches per hour. So this is kind of just great statement. Throw sand on the beach at this point. We're adding extra rain to places that don't need any extra rain. In addition, I was just running through some of our Facebook feed on our Facebook front page as well, and folks over towards East Houston, they said that they've been making some calls to 911. There's still a lot of folks apparently that are trapped over there in some spots. So we want to make sure that they get the help they need as well.
And this is probably a little redundant, but believe I've never seen anything like this. This is the flood warning that was just issued.
Okay.
And it's until 10:45 next Sunday.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. In effect through Sunday, September 3rd for addicts in Barker Reservoir and neighborhoods adjacent to them. So current level is 100 feet, 100.14. The water level could reach 110.5. The record level for addicts is 102.65, which was from the Tax Day floods.
So Barker, smash it by 8 feet.
Yeah, Barker is at 94.85, and it could reach 104.3, so 10 feet above. The record level is 92, right at current level. So we're almost to the record. Expected to go 9 feet above that, also on tax day. So this is going to hamper traffic. Lots of roads, parts of Highway 6, Clay Road, Eldridge Parkway, Westheimer Parkway, all those that you were reporting from right after the tax day floods, and of course sections of Bear Creek Village and Lake Forest and Kellywood and Seco Ranch, which border the reservoir. So we're gonna see flooding at Addicts Park 10, Aldridge West Oaks, Memorial. This is going to be ongoing. This is just the warning for a week
for what we'll see. Yeah, at that point, look at this one here, Frank. This storm, this couplet coming in there, right at the center of the screen. You see it really kind of coiling around at the very end there. So
that's a strong wind, if nothing else.
Yeah, if nothing, which
that's in the Baytown, Channelview area.
Yeah, right around Channelview, Baytown, which makes sense. These are all trucking 25, 30, 35 miles an hour, and they're dropping 2 to 3 inches of rain within that time. So some pretty intense rainfall totals that have been falling in some areas, especially as you get across the east side there. So again, let's do a quick reset for those of you that if you're just joining us, it is now 11:16 here at KPRC Channel 2. I'm here with Chief Meteorologist Frank Billingsley. We're talking not only about some of the flood warning that had just come out for Fort Bend County for the Addicts and Barker dams and reservoirs, which Flood Control's Jeff Linder just talked about at this point.
1 to 2 inches of rain per hour.
1 to 2 inches per hour for 6 hours. In addition, we're also watching 2 tornado warnings. One near Channelview, working its way up towards Highway 90 in Crosby. That also does include just north of LaPorte, I think think, LaPorte, you're okay now. Looks like the threat's north of you, so you should be all right. And then over towards Anahuac as well, we've got another strong couplet, or what we call a tornadic signature, that's been moving its way north. Now could be crossing Anahuac over to the north.
These are moving so quickly north of 25.
Yeah, there's
not going to take much time to get along. And saying all of this, we've yet to actually have a reported tornado all day, and we must have had by now 50 tornado warnings.
Easily. Yeah, we're easily into the 40 to 50 range at this point. So
that doesn't mean the spin's not there.
No.
Just, we're lucky enough that it's not dropping out of the sky.
Which earlier this evening you said neighbor of yours.
Yeah, hearing it. Yeah, people are hearing it.
And that may be it. It may be something that's a photo cloud, something that's dropping so quick, but it's not necessarily reaching the ground. So you're getting that
same
auditory
phenomenon,
right? You're getting that phenomenon, but it's not necessarily hitting. So not only that, but then let's sort of take a quick pivot here, and I'm going to zoom out. And this is what you were just talking about, that we've got the introduction of a couple of different things. So like last night, we were watching, one of these feeder bands starting to.
This went all the way down to Brownsville.
All the way down to Brownsville.
And this is a lot more impressive than it was.
Yeah, it is. But what we're seeing, and what you and I were discussing, is that if you take this, and so let's take the rotation with this as it's going counterclockwise around the center here. So swing that in.
There's more movement.
There's more movement to it.
So it looks like it almost wants to move off to the northeast at maybe about 10 miles per hour.
Right. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to put on, or actually I'll put on our, this is one of the other, points that we've been making here is that, there it is that there's some dry air that's starting to be pulled into the center of Tropical Storm Harvey.
The brown that you put on.
Right. All of the brown that you're seeing here is slowly starting to push into this, which, it's almost cutting off the moisture source, not only in the back end of the storm, but also look that it's not allowing for any kind of generation back and behind this line either.
Let's hope and pray.
Let's hope that can help us. But anyway, so that's sort of what we're dealing with right now. We'll jump back in real fast, and then I will send it over. Looks like we've got a
third tornado warning.
Just to the south of Anahuac towards the Bolivar Peninsula. So kind of a long, this is another thing. You had mentioned earlier, Galveston hadn't seen much rain at all today.
Yeah, they're getting hammered.
Yeah, really getting hit over on East Beach there on the east end.
Sure.
And you can see a really good looking fire hose just to the south of that. Looks like that's going to work over towards the east end of Galveston, and then eventually up towards the Bolivar over the next, let's say, 30 minutes to an hour. So not out of the woods just yet there. So we've got 3 tornado warnings. The one over towards Channelview till 11:30. That's for the next 10 minutes, and then the 2 in succession here across Chambers County. The one that does include portions of the Bolivar and just south of Anahuac. I think that was, what was it? Not Eagles Point. You'd mentioned the point out there, Frank. I don't recall what it was.
Oh, Smith Point.
Thank you, Smith Point. 11:45 for that one, and then just north of that, moving in towards Trinity Bay, and then eventually working its way up towards Anahuac. That's till 11:45 as well. So Eastsiders, this is in your neck of the woods where things are really starting to pick up some steam. Same thing on the north side too, near Kingwood, Atascocita, and Humble, around Bush Airport. We're really starting to see some heavy rain push on through, and curious enough, we're getting a little bit of redevelopment here just south of Katy into Rosenberg. Now it's breaks and it's spotty, but
it's still development.
It's still development.
So we're hoping for the dry air, but let's not wishcast it too much.
No, we certainly don't want to do that. So we will continue to keep a watch on these. As we said, these are all radar indicated. We don't have any indication that there is there's nothing on the ground. On the ground just yet. But most of them moving north at around 20, 25 miles an hour. So I'm going to send it over to our new anchor team, Andy Sirota and Sion Rhodes.
Guys,
welcome to the evening we'll call KPRC After Hours here.
Yeah, we don't know what day it is, but welcome.
Guys, thanks so much. 21 minutes after 11 on a Sunday night, Andy Sirota, Sion Rhodes joining you now for our continuing coverage of this catastrophic flood emergency affecting much of the greater Houston area.
And we've been hearing about a lot of mandatory evacuations as a result of the rainfall and the creeks going over banks and bayous. We have another mandatory evacuation to tell you about, this one in Bay City.
That's right. Residents are being told they have to be out by 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. They're expecting 10 feet of water in the downtown area of Bay City. Certainly very alarming for folks in Matagorda County to hear that. Many of those folks felt the brunt of Hurricane Harvey when he came ashore. In fact, another area that we're paying very close attention to, the Addicks Reservoir. People living near the Addicks Reservoir on heightened alert tonight after officials announced a release.
Joel Eisenbaum near Highway 6 and West Road with the very latest on those preparations.
I want to tell you something real quickly about Highway 6. I think Highway 6, it's already in trouble because it's blocked south of Clay all the way to I-10. So you know you can't go that way because you've got Addicks Reservoir in the state that it's in and all the people that live in that area. But I think there's going to be a problem, and maybe Frank can talk about this or the weather team can talk about this, because there are two creeks which I think are rising quickly by the eye. I'm not a scientist or a hydrologist, but we were worried about them. That is Horsebend Creek and Langham Creek. That's as you go from 290 down Highway 6 toward I-10. It seems to me that if Langham Creek goes over Highway 6, you are going to have tens of thousands of people stuck in that little area. People who may have to get out because of Addicks Reservoir being like it is. So I think that's something we should be talking about. I think that's an issue. That's if Langham Creek comes over Highway 6, those folks will be pinned in between two flooded out areas. And you can't go, I don't think you can go eastbound because you've got Bear Creek there, and you can't go down Clay Road, and westbound is dicey too. I think it's just something to keep in mind. Let's send it back to you.
All right, Joel Eisenbaum, appreciate that report. We want to show you now a list of shelters that have opened up in Harris County.
This is a list that continues to grow minute by minute. So here are the very latest listings. Golden Acres Baptist Church in Pasadena, North Shore High School, the 9th grade campus, the American Legion Hall in Crosby.
And the M.O. Campbell Educational Center, as well as Dopey High School, Francis Scott Key Middle School, Pasadena High School, Westside High School, Paul Revere Middle School, and the Church Project in Spring.
Morton Ranch High School, also one of the shelters, along with Cinco Ranch High School and Lone Star College. And remember, you can anytime go to our website, click2houston.com for the complete list. But it's a changing thing. It's growing as the need for shelters grows. And we want to show you that now. Our Lainey Fritz outside the George Arbonne Convention Center, where people have been lining up to seek shelter.
Yeah, Lainey, we understand that hundreds of evacuees are there right now.
Yeah, that's right. Earlier when we got here, it was about an hour and a half ago, and they told us they were upwards of 1,300 and that they could take plenty more. So we've seen there's been kind of shifts of a lot of people starting to come in. I asked if there was a shuttle. They said there's not an organized shuttle to get here right now, but what they're doing is any rescues they're making around this area, they're taking the people here, whether it's volunteers or city officials, police officers, firefighters. They are getting people here in whatever way they can. Once you get inside those doors, you're given a fresh pair of clothing. You are getting looked at medically, making sure everything is okay, food, snacks, a cot. But out here, people are kind of choosing to come out here and stand from time to time because I think they kind of want to escape the inside. They've been in there. I've talked to some people who have been in there as long as since early this morning when the shelter opened right away, when Mayor Sylvester Turner told us that this was going to be a shelter. They came, and we're seeing plenty more come. They said they could double their number and they would still be fine with the supplies and the space that they have here. So they are encouraging, if anyone is at home and their homes are being flooded out, to get here and seek shelter. It's a very safe spot, and they are open 24/7 until people can be back at their homes. This is a Red Cross shelter as well for those who have already lost their homes. See, we're getting more and more people here. They said you can bring whatever you would think you could bring to the airport for a flight. Feel welcome to bring that. I mean, most people can't bring much anyway because they're just having to leave their houses. But whatever you can bring, you're welcome to bring that in. They just search it once you get inside these doors, and they do encourage you not to bring any weapons. We've already seen a few people who just had their handguns on them, and they did have to be confiscated because they don't want any weapons past the security checkpoint here right inside these doors. So as you can see, I'm going to see if anyone over here wants to talk with us and let us know how long they've been here. Are you willing to be interviewed? You want to talk with us? Tell your story? When did you get here?
Well, I just got here about maybe, let's say, it was during daylight time. And it was just coming down real hard and stuff. I was at Star Hope Mission, but they got too full, So I just came here and found out about this place. So.
And there's pretty good space inside there. It seems like they can hold a lot more people, so it's not too crowded here yet.
That's true. It's not real crowded, but I guess if you keep on, it might be. Something can all fit everybody in.
And sir, what was your situation that finally forced you that you knew you needed to get to a shelter?
I just recently got homeless, so. And then my friends told me about what was going on. I said, okay, so let's go. It's a lot better over here. So
for someone who's dealing with the impacts of this storm without a home, is this refreshing that you know this is somewhere you can go and
It really is. It really is. I just hope everybody can get accommodated so everybody can feel better and get better, and hopefully it's will pass soon.
And what kind of things are you seeing from around here? Since I've gotten here, I'm just seeing everyone being so helpful. They're making sure everyone's had dry clothes. Have you gotten good care here?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people just like me and my friends. They gave us some clothes and stuff too, so that's pretty good. Compared to the clothes we had on.
Yeah, and right now it's pretty cool out here. It actually feels good out here. Is that why you're kind of out here hanging out?
Yeah, I figured I'd come out for a little bit and see what's going on if the rain stops or what.
Okay, thank you so much for talking with us. And as you can see, guys, a lot more people. Just like I said, we're just getting huge crowds coming in kind of at once. I'm trying to see if there's a truck anywhere that just dropped them all off. But there we go. A metro just pulled up. So the West Shuttle, a metro just pulled up, and you're seeing just more and more people come in, and they said they have plenty of room for everyone. So guys, I'm gonna send it back to you. We'll keep coming here from the GRB, where they're encouraging those to take shelter if you're in this area.
Lee, thank you. It is quite a scene to acknowledge that just about 8 o'clock yesterday is when the Red Cross opened 2 shelters for the Houston-Harris County area, the M.O. Campbell Center and also the Chinese Community Center. We've gone from those 2 shelters now to this giant list, and now the George R. Brown Convention Center being opened up for people who need it.
Right in the heart of downtown Houston. I think it's also very telling to see those evacuees get off the bus. They're calm. They all seem to be in good spirits. We saw a couple of them waving to the camera. It certainly just speaks to the tone, the mindset of a lot of these folks, considering just the awful situation that they've been through. I mean, scores of families were evacuated today. We saw a lot of those high water rescues play out here on our air, especially down in the Friendswood area.
That's right, and we know that Wedgwood Elementary School in Friendswood now opening its doors to help those who have lost their home to the hurricane. That water so high in the neighborhood right next to the school, the National Guard helicopter had to be brought in to pick up families and then take them to that shelter. Shelter volunteers also allowing pets, as you see in this video that we shot earlier. There's cats and dogs that are coming in, and that, of course, making all the difference for one evacuee.
I had called my boyfriend. I was like, it's getting really bad. And he's like, you need to open up this gate and do that. And I was like, okay, we should be fine. And then I had both of these dogs in bed with me. We were just like, okay, we're just going to go to bed and hopefully tomorrow it'll be okay. And it wasn't. When we woke up, it was just rising, and it didn't stop rising.
And they say they've taken in well over 300 people at that one shelter.
And besides people, again, we're also concerned about animals. Your social media feeds today probably filled up with videos and still photos of people wading through floodwaters with their pets. Now, we're going to talk about how those animals are holding up.
Chip Brewster has more from the Wildlife Center of Texas.
Humans aren't the only ones being impacted by Harvey, and humans are the ones making the decisions to care for those less fortunate, including the furry ones. I'm here at the Wildlife Center with Stacy Fox. You're one of the directors of the Houston SPCA, and you guys have had a number of hurricane victims come in.
Already, yes. Yeah. We've had 60 baby victims of Hurricane Harvey come in. Mostly squirrels. It's the second squirrel season, baby season, and so this is the time when they're in their nests and the wind and rain literally blows them out of the kind-hearted citizens find them, bring them to us, we rehabilitate them and release them back into the wild.
So these are just people out and about, whether they're escaping their own situation of dire consequences, or they are looking specifically for these animals so that they can help save their lives.
Absolutely. Usually they find them once the rain stops, and they go out to see the damage and find out what has happened on their property, and then they come across the babies. And so if you do find a baby squirrel or another orphaned baby animal, we encourage you to put it in a box lined with soft rags and bring it to the Wildlife Center of Texas so our experts can rehabilitate them and eventually release them back into the wild.
So not just squirrels that you'll be intaking.
Squirrels, birds. The Wildlife Center of Texas actually receives 10,000 wild animals a year, comprising 350 species.
And what about when a hurricane strikes? Is there a rough number or an expectation that you have?
Yes, there's literally a flood of animals. Okay. After Hurricane Ike, we received over 1,800 baby squirrels. And we anticipate something similar happening in the next few days after the hurricane leaves the area.
There you guys have it. If you happen to run across a baby animal, wild animal, and you're thinking, man, I wish there was a place that we could take this baby animal, this is the place.
The Wildlife Center of Texas.
There you guys have it. In Houston, Chip Rooster, KPRC. Channel 2 News.
It's really good that people are taken care of. I was actually trying to make my way into work earlier this afternoon on Bissonnet, right through near Rice University, and I ran into the veterinary doctor who owns the clinic there, and she was just walking through floodwaters, getting to her clinic to check on animals who had been left to care.
Yeah, just remarkable. Wants to make sure that they're all okay. Certainly seems like that playing out all over the city and the area today. All right, I want to recap a water rescue that you saw unfold live right here on Channel 2 earlier this evening. This was at FM 1463 in the Katy Freeway. Harris County firefighters had to steer a boat to that SUV that you see right there, and they actually found someone in the back of that SUV and then pulled that individual to safety.
There was a lot of question as we watched this unfold whether there actually was someone in, but the clue...
All right, folks. So, since this was a very much flood-centric video, yet again, 1 year later on the Lost Begotten channel. Same warnings given to a different effect. And less excuse not to listen, considering all the evidence you've seen that Russia is trying to destroy America. Maybe if I keep hitting it with hurricanes, they won't want to come here. Thanks for watching, everybody. Click the like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Check your subscription often. They may be dropped for no reason. And click the notification bell to make sure you're notified of future podcasts and uploads. Check that out. Broadcast about 9 a.m. and 11 p.m. Check it out.
Now it takes my pain back to breathe out another thing. I know it's in my heart, and baby, down in my soul. You, baby, you can't take it no more. No, I know I'm walking out that door the way it treated me too many times before. I know I gotta keep you by my side today I die. 'Cause baby, ecstasy is in my hand. Oh, when I'm holding yours in mine and walking in the sand. Oh, baby, you know it's fine.